I don't know how much people this. Oh. Oh, no. Oh,
I got it. Just. Hey, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the January 5th regular meeting of the Town of Rochester Town Board. Ask you to stand for the pledge of the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Parents, let's go Rangers.
Ask the deputy clerk to do the roll call, please.
Councilman Coleman.
Here.
Councilwoman Allen. Here. Councilman Paddock.
Here.
Councilwoman Sneesher. Here. Supervisor Davis.
Here. Our first order of business tonight is there are two public hearings, local laws 1 and 2. Give a brief description of what they each is, in which time we'll open the meeting to comments from the public. Local law 1 is amending chapter 128 taxation, the town of Dakota, Rochester. It's an exemption for disabled persons with limited income. The current limit that was allowed by state law previously was $29,000 for a 50% tax reduction, and then increasing to a 5% tax reduction at $37,400. On the advisement of our assessor, we are increasing the $29,000 to $37,000. There's copies of this on the back table there for anyone who'd like to see. And through $45,400, which would be the 5%. These would take effect on the July 1, 2023 tax rolls, which would be the school taxes of 2023 and then the town and county taxes of 2024. With that, there's really no more to say about the description. It's just a change of the numbers from the town's existing code. So with that, I'll open it up if anyone would like to comment on the proposed local law.
The only thing I would ask is that we're filling out our forms in the next year, which we always have to give the prior year's form that you fill out your taxes. This would be based on your base income, or 36.5 and qualify for the 50. Is that correct? In other words, if your total income,
Correct.
your house income was 36.
Yes, that would be correct. Yeah. From 0 to 37,000 instead of the 29,000 current. So we've raised it 8,000. Anyone else wish to comment? Anyone online wish to comment? Okay. I'd ask then for a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion. I'll
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay. Local law 2 of 2023, very similar. This is amending chapter 128 taxation, dealing with senior citizen tax exemptions. The same changes apply. It is going from 29,000 to 37,000 for the 50%, with varying degrees of percentages down to 5% at 45,400. We will be proposing one change. This was a cut and paste from the existing law, which dates back to approximately 2014 or so, where it says owned by a husband and wife. We are going to change that to owned by a married couple. And to correct that language. So once we have the public hearing, we will be making a resolution to change that language. Mary Lou, that's not a substantial change, is it?
It might be. You might want to, you'll still have time for the taxing things. You might want to approve that at your audit meeting.
Okay, part of the reason is that the county asked that we get this done as soon as possible in January, because the tax exemptions are due March 1st. So they had asked that we, if we were going to do this, that we do this as soon in January as possible.
We do have to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure why it would be viewed as a substantial change. Because it's following federal.
I
Yeah.
understand, but I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Okay. Well, as Mary Lou said, we can take her advice and decide whether we want to or not to. So I'll leave it to the board to
Yep.
decide.
What's the impact?
I just advise you make the decision.
What?
If it is ruled.
I just
like-
advise you make the decision.
We could be sued that we didn't follow proper procedure, and Article 78 could be filed and it could be overturned. So we could hold it open to the meeting on the 18th and close on the 18th.
I mean, if we don't think the county is
We
gonna have.
can close the public hearing, just we can't vote on it until
Right.
5.
Oh, we can close the public hearing, we just can't vote
Yeah,
on
you
it?
can close the public hearing, you can make the change, and then you can't vote on it till 8 days after you've made the change.
Understood. Okay. Okay, we'll do it, we'll vote to be safe, we'll vote on it at the workshop meeting. Okay. So with that said, I will open the public hearing for comment. Is there any tonight?
I'd like to say I'm glad that you're doing it, but there is times of time.
Understood. And it was brought to my attention by email by a person, and as soon as I saw it, I agreed. And shame on us. We changed the numbers, did not look at the language on the existing law. And when it was brought to my attention, I immediately agreed that we would make that change. So, okay, with that, I'd ask for that a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll make that motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll say.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. Okay, we will move into the regular meeting. There's a discussion on the local laws coming up after we do seeker on them. So first, I would ask for a motion of acceptance of the agenda as prepared by the town supervisor. I do have 3 additions. I'll be adding a resolution on a nomination for the Catskill Watershed Corporation for a representative. We get that request every year. I'll be adding a motion to loan funding to the highway department until the highway fund taxes are received. And I think that's it for motion. Yes. So I'd ask to add those 2 agenda items to resolutions.
I like that motion.
Have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, seeker, this is the recommend resolution. Town of Rochester Town Board determines local law 1 of 2023 will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment. It should be classified as a type 2 action under the following, it should say, yeah, no, I'm sorry, it should say, following 6 NYC RR Part 617 criteria. No further seeker review is required. This is routine or continuing agency administration and management, not including new programs or major reordering of priorities that may affect the environment. Second. Roll call vote.
Councilman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Allen. Aye. Councilman Paddock.
Aye.
Councilwoman Sneezer. Aye. Dr. Baden.
Aye. Next, seeker for local law 2 of 2023. Town of Rochester Town Board determines local law 2 of 2023 will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment. It should be classified as a type 2 action under the following 6 NYC RR Part 617 criteria. No further seeker review is required. 617.5 C26, routine or continuing agency administration and management, not including new programs or major reordering of priorities that may affect you. Have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second,
I'll second.
again, roll call.
Councilman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Allen. Aye. Councilman Paddock.
Aye.
Councilwoman Sneakus. Aye. Supervisor Davis.
Aye. Okay, discussion on local law 1. This does not have the same language that the other one has. We could adopt this tonight. We could hold off and adopt it then both simultaneous. I'm probably not going to send them to the county until send them together. It doesn't really make sense to send them one and not the other.
Maybe we should vote at the same time.
Same time?
That way,
Okay.
we don't.
So we'll take no action on local law 1. Local law 2, I'm going to make a motion that we change the words husband and wife to married couple.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain. And we will table action on this until the January 18th workshop meeting. Financial report. Usually I say filed with the town clerk, but it's in my hands because it's not off the press. Pass that around. That's yours. Okay, year end, which will have a few little changes as we move forward, because as you know, we'll have an abstract 13 and probably an abstract 14, which is bills that continue to come in in January and February that are for expenditures or revenues that took place in 2022. But as we stand at this moment, as of December 31st, our street lighting account, I don't normally present this to you, but we are $51.32 under budget. However, I just got an example and a Central Hudson bill for October, November, because they're always a couple months behind. So we probably will be over budget, but we also knew we were going to be over budget because we utilized fund balance to draw down on some of that fund balance. So street lighting should be fine. It will be a little bit over budget of what we planned on using for fund balance, but there's plenty in fund balance to utilize for that process. We're still sort of chasing and also in some of those bills that we paid in like April and May, a number of them were 2021 bills that didn't get to us until too late to include them include them in 2021. So part of the reason we're over is some of the bills that we paid in 2022 were actually 2021 bills. And we did have a fund balance increase between 21 and 22. So that money is now going to be used to pay off those bills. General fund has done very well. Our revenue currently is on about the middle of page 2. We are at 93.62% of our revenue as budgeted collected. There's $163,991.42 outstanding of what was budgeted. We will exceed that by the time we collect the rest of the sales tax, mortgage tax, franchise tax monies that are coming in. So our revenue line will exceed what was budgeted. Our expenditure line, we are currently at, on the back of the last page, we are currently at 86.81% of spending what was budgeted. we are $339,139.30 ahead of what was budgeted. So my anticipation is we will not need to use any of the fund balance that we budgeted to be utilized as part of the budget for 2022, which means that will remain in fund balance, and potentially we may even add a little more to the fund balance. So, but bear in mind, we did use 320,000 this year, so that will help go toward that. Highway, unfortunately, because of their cost of goods and a lot of their items are parts and things like that, they ended up they're currently $361,521 over budget. Well, not over budget, over expended. They have expended 104% of their funding. They have taken in 88.1% of their funding. There is an additional 100,000 coming from CHIPS in March that will be backed into this funding. It was an error on the state's part, and they have confirmed that it was an error on their part. We should have received 547,000 approximately in CHIPS, and we only received 447,000. But I ordered Jeff, it didn't sound right. He checked with the state. They immediately agreed it was a mistake. But unfortunately, they can't get us the money until they cut the next cycle of checks, which is March. But it's already been submitted. We will get that. So part of that is the cost of fuel, cost of paving materials, cost of parts, cost of service. So it's kind of is what it is. There's not much we can do with the inflation. Moving forward, my apologies, I forgot to get the funds, the revenues and expenditures for the general fund. I forgot to write them down, so I will have to get them emailed to you. So the December 2022 financials, the highway fund revenue was $557,634.47. That's the CHIPS funding and the ARPA funding that we moved into there. The general, I will have to email you the amount because I neglected to write it down. I was putting this together. Abstract 12 of 2022, the general fund paid $120,400.91. The highway fund paid $61,408.48. Street lighting fund had $0. The escrow fund paid $6,863.41. And we returned reimbursements of escrow, sorry for the typo, not escrow, $202,128.06. The total expenditures, again, general, I will have to mail that to you for the month. For the highway fund, Chrissy, I can get these numbers to you tomorrow. $135,165.82. Moving on to 2023 tax rates report. When we do our budget, we calculate an estimate of taxes based on our information. The county real property then tallies everything. There is usually a few little pluses and minuses in taxes that are returned, that were erroneously billed, taxes that weren't billed. I do have 3 or 4 copies of this. It details tax rates from 2011 all the way to 2023 for the town. There's 3 or 4 extra copies. Aaron, if you want to put them on the end of the table, if anybody wants them, please feel free to take them. I will try to get this on the website. But I'd like to point out that the town tax for 2023 was 50 cents per 100,000. That's down almost 6 cents per 100 from 2022. If you look back from 2011, it's half of what the taxes were in 2011. Highway fund is $1.56 per 100,000. It did go up 7 cents, 7.7 cents. But since 2011, it's gone up 16 cents total. So the total tax between the two is $2.06, which is up 2 cents from 2022, which was the lowest taxes in 12 years. County tax, because of our equalization rate change, for those who don't know what the equalization rate is, when you cross taxing districts, so for the county taxes, all the properties in Ulster County are paying taxes. They have to equalize the valuation of properties because not every town is valued at 100%. Because of the extreme increase in property purchase prices of 2022, we were dropped from 100 to 72%. That number is set by New York State. They look at all the data. Because of that, our county taxes have an increase of 37 cents per thousand. So those of you who got your tax bill, if you saw a 3% decrease in county taxes and then a 37-cent increase in your payment of taxes, that's the reason. It's the equalization rate. I am talking with the assessor about revaluing the properties. He believes that in 2023, the market is beginning to go flat. And so I doubt we will go down much lower than that. We probably will remain the same in 2023. If anything, we might even go up a little bit. But he is investigating doing a reval. To do a full total reval of the entire town is about an 18-month process. It cannot be done in the very short term. So, but just wanted to explain. So the total though is $5.93, which even with the county increase is considerably lower than it was back in 2011. School districts, however, are another story. They have New Paltz. If you are in a Rochester and in the New Paltz district, you pay $24.31. If you're in the Rondout district, you paid $18.21. If you're in the Tri-Valley district, you pay $21.51 per 100,000. That is increases from the 2011 of about roughly about anywhere from $2 to $8 per thousand, $8 per New Paltz. So you can see school taxes continue to rise. The special districts, Accord Fire, Kerhonkson Fire. Accord Fire is at 82 cents per 100,000. It was at 78 cents in 2011. And if you look, it has either been a high 70 or a low 80 the entire time. So they continue to essentially tax at about the same rate. Kerhonkson Fire, we have 2 properties in the town of Rochester that are part of the Kerhonkson Fire District. That's somewhat why those numbers are skewed. So Rochester pays $3.16 for those 2 properties for the fire district. Our Accord Light District, we were just talking about before. When the Central Hudson changed many of the streetlights to LED, the amount collected in taxes back in the early 2010s was not changed, and a fund balance of about $7,000 or $8,000 was developed. The last 2 years, we've been aggressively trying to give that back into we put between $2,000 and $3,000 a year back of that fund balance back into the taxing district. So people in Accord Light are paying 11 cents per thousand. People in Kerhonkson Light are paying 8 cents per thousand. People in Burn Road are paying 11 cents per thousand. Our two new ambulance districts, we had said it would probably be in the neighborhood of about 20 to 25 cents per 100,000. Rochester Ambulance at the end of the day worked out to 19 cents. So for the $200,000 house that the county uses as their benchmark, that would be $38 a year for residents to be serviced by the KFAS ambulance. High Falls Ambulance, which is the Marbletown First Aid Squad portion, is 22 cents a year. So that would cost $44 for that $200,000 house. So all in all, I suspect we will be, as we have been, either number one or number two for the lowest taxes in the county again. We were number one. Marbletown slipped past us a little bit last year by less than half a penny. Rich Parity made sure to remind me of that though. I believe we will pass them again this year. So we will find out. The county tax may do us in on that, but we will find out. So a little friendly competition between us. All in all though, good for our citizens, and hopefully with that combined with the tax reductions, the assessed value reductions for seniors, we'll be able to keep doing the good work we're doing. Correspondence report. I have one thing to share with the board tonight. We received from Ag and Markets, our animal control shelter has to have an annual review. Our dog control officer has to have an annual review. She was a little nervous. It was a new inspector this year. And I'm proud to say we were rated satisfactory, which is the highest you can get. So there's a copy of the report for the board members. I think I already gave Kate a copy of that, but in case I did. So the dog control officer inspection report was satisfactory. The municipal shelter inspection report was satisfactory. I can tell you the inspector spends several hours and goes through every record, goes through the kennels, and we're very happy to continue to have the great service that Jill Schufelt and Kevin Heineman provide for the town as a dog control, assistant dog control officer. So couldn't do better than those two people. Supervisor's update. I did not get the COVID report, but grant updates. The Algarve Firehouse is almost closed out. We are still waiting on documentation from one of the contractors for a couple of additions that had to be added in the firehouse. They were extension cord pull downs. Basically, it's a retractable extension cord that mounts at the ceiling, and the fire district is able to pull them down and plug them into the trucks, plug the trucks in for some, I'm sure there's some purpose of what they have to plug them in for. Originally, the four that existed were supposed to have been saved. That did not occur, so we had to purchase new. So we're waiting on approval for the cost of the purchase of those four. So it literally is about $1,500 worth of expense that's holding up the final closure of that. But as soon as we get all the documentation, we have gotten all the warranties. The fire district has been trained in all the equipment in the operation of the generator. We do have our certificate of occupancy from the code enforcement officer, and it's just a matter of waiting. We hope fire district would like to wait until March. We were going to do a grand opening sooner. If they would like to wait till March till it's a little warmer, gives them time to get the house sort of in shape for them. So at some point in March, we will be doing a open house for the public. And I think people will be very happy. The back schoolhouse room is amazing with the new floor-to-ceiling windows. The roof was, the ceiling was, the drop ceiling that's been in there for years was removed. It's now extended another 8 feet or so, I'm guessing, but roughly. And it's gorgeous. And I think that historic preservation people will be very happy. We did preserve,
Facade, right?
yes, and we preserved the 2 chalkboards.
Oh my God.
We determined they were probably not original. They were probably added somewhere along the way, but we did preserve 2 of the chalkboards. They were removed and reinstalled back on the wall. So they exist. So really, I can't say enough. Alfondre Architecture, our design firm, Barone Construction, who was our general contractor. Alfondre's from New Paltz, Barone is from Highland. Did an amazing job, and I think everybody will be very, very pleased with the project. This building closeout is inching closer. We finally got all the paperwork that we need, and now it's just a matter of it working its way through the proper chains. Boyce Mill Bridge, Councilman Coleman and I had a Zoom meeting with the consultants that are working on it for us. They continue to, they're doing surveying right now, identifying any changes, if any takings of not takings, but any personal property, land property needs to be, if any agreements need to be made, either for construction or for permanent. Sometimes in construction, we might have to do an easement just to allow equipment to get to certain places, and it might be on somebody's personal property. So they're doing all the surveys right now. We're going to have monthly meetings with them for the short term. They're working on design, and we should be going out to bids at some point this year, with construction beginning in 2024. And we will definitely be considering the naming. We're going to get it built first, but we will definitely be considering the name. Code enforcement record conversion. The boxes have returned. You can see the results of some of the boxes in the back. Alyssa and Courtney are doing a very great job of refiling 60 years worth of building department records. The hard drive that all this is now stored on is en route to us. It was FedExed out just before the new year, so I'm anticipating we will be getting it sometime this week. And we have the printer, the large format scanner. So now moving forward, we can scan our own maps. When we get maps from people, we can scan them in. We still have to get the company to come install that and do the training on that, but it showed up, and then less than a week later, all the records showed up, and I didn't want to overwhelm with trying to do 2 things at once. So they're working on the records. As soon as they're done getting the records in shape, we'll get the company in to do the training. So probably mid-January is my guess. We'll do the training on the large format scanner. That's all I have for supervisor's update. Actually, I would like to make sort of 2 statements, comments on 2 things that have happened that maybe some of the public has heard about. The first is, in our town, we have several private water districts. They are usually a number of small subdivisions where, when those subdivisions were designed, a shared water system was put in by a private company, not run by the town, not managed by the town. We have one that is off of Queens Highway that the owner passed away, the sole owner, in early 2022. Sadly, he passed away without a will, so the company is left in probate. Because of that, no one owns the company. And his family has done their best of trying to keep it running, but they cannot access any of the funds of the company because they're caught up in probate. They were investing their own funds as best they could to keep it running. The week before Christmas, it failed. People had water on and off. People had no water. The county got involved, the town got involved. We are working through the legal aspects of it to try to resolve it. We have supported the people as best we could. We got a tanker of water in there. Councilwoman Nowen and I, the county delivered to us cases of water. We went and personally delivered a case of water, a bottled water to each home. The county has a water company consultant who is now doing the testing, and the county has agreed to fund that for 90 days. So the water is being tested. It is safe to drink. It is safe to use. There have been some maintenance issues, though, in that the pumps, a number of pumps have failed. I personally was there helping put in a pump on Christmas morning from 5 a.m. until 9 a.m. So I'm not patting myself on the back. It was the right thing to do, but we are literally very involved in this process. The neighbors have been great. The residents of that community, that area, they have been in constant text and phone conversation with me. As I said to them, they're my eyes. They're letting me know when there's problems, when the pressure drops. The company that the county has got to be involved with this, I can't say enough about them. Their name is H2O Environmental Consultants, I believe. I believe they're located out of Poughkeepsie. The gentleman who lives in Saugerties, on Christmas Eve, when I got a phone call at 10 p.m. that there was no water, went to Brewster, got a pump, found a pump that was not exactly the right pump, but close enough, took it there. I met him there, and we got it installed and up and running, and people had water at by 9 a.m. on Christmas morning. We weren't going to let them be without water on Christmas. So that gentleman and his company, he works for the company. He's not the owner, but the owners of the company as well have been amazing in responding to this situation. The county has done their part. We've done our part. I just want to mention it because I know it's kind of been all over Facebook. I want to just sort of let people know what's going on. So we're working towards solutions. We have Mary Lou, our attorney, working with the attorney for the family to try to resolve what we can, when we can. We have the Public Service Commission in Albany involved because they are the ones for private water companies who issue the operations and the license. So the second thing I'd like to address is, I'm sure many people know, and I'm sure some people may want to comment tonight. There was an incident in the town municipal parking lot on Friday, December 30th. Gentleman who is an over-the-road truck driver who lives in our town. When he comes into town, we have allowed him to park his truck there because he's unable to at his house. He's not here very much. When he's here, he lets us know it's here. We have his cell number. He parks there and moves on. Sadly, an altercation happened on Friday between he and another person. They both knew each other. They were meeting there, the best I've been able to tell, and he was assaulted. He was airlifted. I want to thank the KPAS and the fire district for their response. The helicopter landed right over there in the town parking lot. Took him to a hospital. seeing the Freeman article, I believe that was Albany Medical, where he was taken. I have not been able to get any status reports of his condition. Not being a family member, I'm not surprised that they will not release information for condition. But I do want to say this was not a random incident. This was not a situation where it was somebody that was a criminal who was looking for anybody. This was a argument, disagreement, whatever may have occurred to lead up to this. It is tragic. It is sad. We all send our healing thoughts to the person, to his family members. But I wanted to just address it, and the town gave the state police considerable assistance. As soon as I had heard, I didn't know what, I knew that the helicopter was coming in. I didn't know what had happened to lead to the helicopter coming in. Came over, met the state troopers who were on the scene, did assist them in locating the fire district, which has cameras on the backside of their of the fire district. The troopers did view those cameras. I'm told, based on what I read in the Freeman from the police article, that the police have arrested a person that evening. The victim was able to tell them who did it before he was airlifted out. And I was also told by the police that they were confident that they knew who did it. They were gathering evidence, but they were confident that they knew who did it. I only say these things because I want to make sure that people do not have fear that we have a crime spree going on of people being in danger of being attacked using that municipal parking lot. So again, our heartfelt thanks, our cares and thoughts and prayers go out to the victim. And with that, we'll move on to the attorney for the town report.
Okay, well, Mike gave my report because I just wanted to let you know that I was working with an attorney at the Public Service Commission, as well as with the estate attorney for the gentleman who owned the water company. And I will report back as I hear more. I'm waiting to hear from both of them at this point. Also, I am working on a town court matter with the dog control officer. We'll probably have a date for that this month. And the other things are things we're going to discuss later anyway. And B, happy birthday.
Thank you.
And is Carol there?
No,
Carol is not, but happy birthday
well,
to Carol Fisher as well.
Happy birthday to Carol, to our regulars. She may be watching on YouTube. That's it.
Mary Lou, if I could ask you one, the assessor brought to my attention the state legislature adopted a new law about taxation for fire and EMS workers. I did read the law, but it appears to me, and I'm not asking you to be not up to speed on it, but it appears to me what I read is it's about any community who already has one. But if you can, I'll send you the link, but if you can just look at it, I'm definitely interested in considering it and trying to figure out if we can adopt one and where we go from there. So I'll send you
Okay, send me the link.
Yep, you got it. Christina, any town clerk tax collector report?
Town clerk, she's still finishing up the year-end reports. Tax collection, the taxes are out, and as of today, we've collected $229,015.04.
Okay. The highway superintendent report, I have Superintendent Fry asked me to convey to the board that he is appointing Jared Gunberg as his deputy superintendent. We created that position at our organizational meeting on Tuesday, so he is appointing Jared Thunberg. And so Kate, Christina, if you would convey that
Sure
to
thing.
Jared, so he can be sworn into that.
Yep.
Other than that, it's just a matter of finalizing the year end, and we just keep hoping for not a big snowy spring. Although we have put aside a decent budget for snow removal. Department updates and liaison reports. Who wants to go first?
I'll go first.
There you go.
I have news on mine for
Yes.
So, the housing committee is having our first official meeting on Tuesday, January 24th here at 6 p.m. One person's gonna attend via Zoom, but everyone is available and very excited for our first meeting. From my email to everyone. And then as far as elder care updates, from word of mouth, we have 2 new participants in it. And then also from another neighbor to neighbor called, Rich has turned into a new person in the program as well. So that they are up to speed on all of our elder care, all the everything that is going on in the center that is available.
Great. One thing on the housing committee, last night at the county planning board meeting, the planning director did a little presentation on the housing, the housing smart communities.
Yeah.
And because we've now formed a committee, we can adopt a local law to do the housing smart communities, to join that, the county group. With that, we get a lot of information back and forth from them and a lot of assistance. So he's going to send me the model resolution. I'll be bringing that to you either at the workshop meeting or at the February meeting, asking you, excuse me, to adopt.
Yeah, I had
So-
talked to Kai, the new.
Great. Actually, if you talk to Kai, if you could
Yeah,
ask
they do
him,
training.
for the model language, because Dennis said to me, I'll have Kai send it to you. So
Yeah, the holidays were a little busy for both of us. We
Yep.
decided to circle back after New Year's for
Okay.
training with him.
great, thank you. Aaron, we'll go in order
Sure.
around the table.
Okay, so I'll start with the planning board. The December planning board meeting, they approved the Da Vinci subdivision. And we'll have about three ongoing applications from that meeting. They do have a meeting this month on January 9th. That's this Monday, and that will have the Harana Market continued application and a new minor subdivision application on a private road off of Dove Road. That's about it that I have for the planning board. For the library, they have made the 238 subsidized memberships available to Town of Rochester residents. So you can contact the library to get one of those cards before they run out. They typically,
Stonebridge.
what did I say?
You didn't say the name.
Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, the Stone Ridge Library. I have a thing typed up, but I can't get my computer to turn on. So the Stone Ridge Library has the 238 subsidized, we subsidize them, the Town of Rochester subsidizes them, the memberships for our town residents. They also, all Rondout Valley students get a free library membership. So that's, even if you live in the town of Rochester, you can take advantage of that and it doesn't count against our 238. And then any resident can get a digital card, which is a free library membership that they offer as well. So you can just contact the library. For the agriculture, oh yes, they typically run out in March.
And also, all residents of Rochester can utilize Ellenville Library free as well.
And also to Little Ones Learning Center is, during COVID, they have paused, but they have been offering their programming and it have increased it as well. So that's another one of our library programs that we have here in town. So for agriculture, on December 18th, Councilman Coleman and I hosted a event that was specifically targeted towards our farming community. It was a very well-attended gathering of about 60 people, which was amazing. From that, we really heard from the public that forming an agricultural committee is something that people are very interested in. So my update is just that I will be bringing draft language to the board. I'm hoping, Mike, that we can put that on our workshop agenda
Okay,
for discussion,
okay.
just so we can start to,
Yep.
like we did with the housing committee, really make it the way we want it.
Understood.
But I have a draft that I worked up that I will send out for that. I've also been in touch with the RVGA about ways to be more present in the town of Rochester community, so we're having conversations about that. The ECC has a meeting this month. That's the last day of the month because that's the last Tuesday. That's January 31st, 2023. I'm excited to go to this meeting because their topic will be on this idea of being a pollinator pathway community. And it's something they're working towards, which is a way of individuals to become a part of a path, a contiguous path through yards, through planting pollinators. So there will be a presentation on that.
Good question. Is there a meeting on the 24th?
Nope, it's on the 31st.
It is on the 31st. Okay, because I knew in December they switched to the,
They
Well,
did
okay.
that,
just checking.
but yeah.
Want to make sure we didn't have a conflict. of
Yeah, no,
meetings. Okay,
I don't have any updates for the transfer station, but I did realize that we should try to schedule the site visit with the new executive director, so I'll try to get that on. For the website, I'm currently working on the site map for the website, which is what determines the website itself, what pages we have and how they are navigated. So I worked with Mike a little bit on a first draft. I'm working on a second draft of that, and then I'll want to run that by everyone on the board and the departments, because a lot of it is department related. I did want to talk to you, Mike, at some point after the meeting about me sitting down with our website coordinator, our current one, so that he and I can go through and make some updates.
absolutely.
Because there's a lot of misinformation and he's available and I'm available. We can just sit down and do it
Perfect.
together. Okay. So I think that would be great because our website won't be done for another few months. And so in the meantime, we can just clean some of the stuff up. For the code enforcement office, I came for a visit, and yes, Alyssa was diligently working on refiling. One thing we talked about is I love the constabulary report, and we talked about me being able to give a report like that to the board. I know we sometimes with the clerk report, we have a breakdown of permits, but I wanted to ask the board if there was anything. Alyssa said, well, what do you want? And I said, well, let me ask the board. If there's anything the board would like in a monthly report, like numbers wise, then I can work with Alyssa, and then I can have something like that. One thing I did ask specifically about was short-term rentals. So our total number for the town is 135. That's total. There's been 4 new applications that count towards 2023. So that's the one that I know, but anyone could email me if there's anything on the top of your head that you'd like. I was thinking permit breakdown.
Maybe if they use the categories
Yes.
that they report,
That's what we talked about.
that would be great. I mean, in almost every budget line, they exceeded what was budgeted for revenue.
Yeah.
With the exception of 1 or 2, and that's only through the end of November. We still haven't posted December yet, because we're still waiting for the court's report on that, so. So we exceeded our budgeted revenue. And that's even with a moratorium,
Yeah,
so.
and that's all.
Okay, Councilman Paddock.
I would like to compliment Councilman Rich Miller on his outstanding reports and being the pinnacle of excellence. So I'll be reading from the chapter and verse of Constable Miller. The constabulary answered 18 direct calls for service and other duties in December of 2022. They included 10 neighbor-to-neighbor and quality of life complaints, 3 resident traffic complaints, Whitfield Road, Lower Whitfield Road, and Sampsonville Road, 1 environmental complaint on Lower Whitfield Road, 3 new building department violations, 0 court cases were open, 9 court cases remained open, 0 court proceedings were closed. Interesting occurrences in December. Residents' complaints have remained steady. Traffic complaints were down in the beginning of the month, but rose again significantly towards the end, likely due to the multiple holidays. Many trespassing, garbage dumping, and noise and lighting complaints have occurred this month. Investigations and solutions are ongoing. Almost all have been attributed to short-term rental properties. They continue to generate many complaints, especially on weekends. In addition, they generate complaints regarding loud noises, road, driveway blockages, and additional housing trash dumping, household trash dumping. We'll continue to work with the building department on those issues. At the end of the month, an individual was assaulted in the town municipal lot near Friends Lane and Ackford. The case is ongoing with court appearance scheduled January 4th. Neighbor-to-neighbor complaints have decreased this month and all have been diffused without further action necessary. From Rich Miller. From our rec department, Ashley Sweeney just wants to wish everybody a happy new year to all. The town of Rochester Recreation Department is excited to start off 2023 with a bang. The senior breakfast that was postponed in December due to weather will take place tomorrow, Friday, the 10th? 6th, even better. December 6th, right here at the
From
Harold.
10 to 12, that's where you
Yeah,
got.
there it is. There's the 10. Yep, right here at the Harold Lipton Community Center, starting at 10, going to 12. Call 626-2115 to sign up. The adult paint class scheduled for Wednesday, January 25th is now full. Call the rec department to be placed on a waiting list, and the paint class has been spectacularly received. They'll be holding a youth paint class in the evening on Tuesday, January 31st. There's still a few spaces left to sign up. Call the rec department. Just a reminder, senior and adult classes are still available for Tuesday and Thursday exercise classes. We'll call the rec department for more information is available. Now we're at that 31st paint class.
That
and
may, that will
EPC.
be conflicts. Because
Oh, yeah.
Actually, the two things seem to go together. If we're gonna paint, yeah,
Yeah,
if we're gonna paint pollinators, then we'll be all set.
they might just have to move it to a later time
Yeah,
or move it somewhere else. So,
I think, yeah, I'll,
Board meeting?
April eighth?
Step and paint.
Is that it, Adam?
That was it. Thank you.
Cool.
So, Happy New Year, happy birthday. Like I'm sure everyone was busy over the holidays, so I haven't had as much time to work on some of the liaison responsibilities, and I was delayed in reaching out to some people. So I appreciate the updates they were able to provide me. The fire district, they had their in-house elections at the end of last year, as well as the fire commissioner elections. So I just wanted to congratulate all the new officers and commissioners, thank them and the rest of the members for their commitment to the town over the years. I'll be reaching out to Chief Davis, as well as trying to find time to meet with the commissioners this winter. Good news on the KFAS front, and I can't remember, I know I got this update, I don't know if I brought this up last meeting, but so I apologize for repeat, but it's good news. So they recently did have CPR save with a mechanical CPR device that was purchased with funds provided by the town. I know that was one specific item that Mr. Nurko called out in his presentations last year, and it's amazing to know that it's already helping to save lives. Marbletown First Aid Unit, I did get a very detailed yearly report from Mr. Vitti. I'll share that with the board so you can see some of the details, but in terms of some highlights, so this was the first year that Charles Foster was serving in this role as chief, being appointed by the board of directors, so I just want to congratulate him on getting to the first year. Marbletown First Aid Unit had over 700 calls in 2022 and responded at a rate of 97%. The crews have consistently gotten out the door in under 5 minutes from dispatch. Their annual fundraising campaign to rebuild the ambulance fund was successful, nearly doubling the previous fundraising record, which showed appreciation of the Marbletown First Aid in the community. And they also updated equipment in the ambulances and other pieces of critical equipment have been part of their overall effort to bring everything in good working order. Just generally, I want to again thank all of the first responders for the work that they did last year to help keeping everyone in the town of Rochester and neighboring towns safe. And I want to remind everyone that we're currently accepting letters of interest for, I don't remember what we ended up calling it, the Ambulance Tax Advisory Board or
Commission,
Commission.
No, committee.
committee. Sorry.
So we are accepting letters of interest for that. So people who are interested can email Supervisor Baden, and then hopefully we'll be scheduling interviews for that.
Yes, and we'll be doing an agenda item tonight to schedule.
Thanks. ZBA had one application last month, and they're going to be canceling their January meeting. We also, I know, we're discussing the alternate position, so we do have at least one candidate interested in filling that alternate spot. So getting there, and then on Cablevision, still waiting to hear back from Alex. So I did send them the red line for the contract, as well as some requested modifications for some homes that we didn't see in there. He did say it may take a little time for them to assess that, so I'm waiting back. I'll send a little email prod later on this week or next week.
And everybody, we finished?
Yes.
If I can build off the Cablevision, so Ulster County Comptroller March Gallagher has put together a commission of people who are studying broadband in particular in Ulster County. I'm not sure if it's federal or state, I believe it's federal, has come out with a map of, and you can isolate it down to the parcel of areas that are unserved. I don't have the link in front of me, but you can go to the comptroller's website and it's there. We're urging everybody to check and verify that it's accurate, because there are many places that the federal government says are served, and in reality, they're served by possibility of wireless broadband, which, as many of us know in our community, doesn't work very well. Just because it can work doesn't mean it does work, is what I keep saying to people. So check. If you disagree with how they have you listed, there's a whole section of how you can notify whoever is collecting all this data, say, my property is wrong. That is through some point in mid-January when this is being done. It was a poor time to roll it out. It got rolled out between Christmas and New Year's. It has been all over Facebook. We've tried to get the information out to people as best we can. But please check. If you don't have it, if you have it in your home and are happy with it, then there's no reason to do anything. If you don't have it, or if you're unhappy with what you have, go on and let them know. So we're trying to make sure they have that, because this will impact federal funding moving forward toward closing out broadband issues. So we want to make sure they're working from the right data as best we can. And I really want to thank Councilman Coleman through this whole process, and really put his mapping skills. I put his mapping skills to the test with mapping out these areas, and the comptroller has more or less said that Rochester's had the best maps of any other town. So thank you for that. Assessor's report. The assessor had no new news except they continue to work with people on their exemptions. They are all due March 1st. Anybody who has an exemption that they must recertify. I'm not even going to claim to know which ones have to recertify and which ones don't. I just say, if you have a question, call the assessor's office. They sent out a large number of letters to everybody who has the current exemption in November, I believe. And I know there's a steady stream of people coming into their office every day, and they're working with them to validate information, collect whatever information they need. So we thank them for all that work, and their goal is to make sure nobody who qualifies for an exemption gets missed. So, and as I said, if we adopt these local laws, that will change the senior exemptions to, the reason those numbers were picked is the assessor looked at the people that were just over the 29,000 and where were their numbers, and then he factored in that there is going to be the 8.5% increase on Social Security, I believe, is the number. So he factored that in, and we arrived at the 37,000 to appear to be the number. So we hope that that will capture the percentage of people that were just a little bit over and not able to qualify for the full exemption. Now will be able to qualify. So, and with that, I'll open for public comment. We'll start first with people present, and then we'll go to anyone on Zoom who wishes to speak. So.
With regard to planning and zoning and code enforcement law, there was always a report that came out of there and the file on the record on the report that you can get to show numbers. They gave minutes of every type and they were reported.
Yeah.
You could probably use that.
Yeah.
If you want to include it. Regarding the incident, it happened, it was a very terrible thing, first off. But I mentioned this on Facebook, and I will reiterate what I had to say now that I found out this gentleman lived in the town. Did you know if he left his truck and walked to his house or whatever? Because several dozen years ago in my life, I had a trucker that I lived with for 14 years. And although it was not a town municipal system, was the courthouse, after getting permission to park there, the courthouse was allowed to be used as a parking area by the gentleman, so he could walk the 10 houses in my house after getting there. If you're going to do this, and this is a hindsight on my part, I didn't think of it 25 years ago, maybe if someone's going to park there, you should get his information first, so you said you had his phone number. But the company that he works for, and if he has a schedule, if he has a dedicated one, whatever, and might something for you to think about that might help this gentleman along in the hospital. Has anyone contacted the company that his rig is through to let them know?
Working on.
Okay, you can go and get his numbers. You can get his, if the numbers off the side of the building or off the side of the scale, they're on there. You can use them to do the research, and you can also go with the name of the company and the address out in Missouri, which it is, because I stopped and looked to see, and that will help you isolate the company. And that way they'll know where they're talking. If the numbers are the ones for the federal government for taxes, the road tax, is what we're talking about. But I thought that may help him. But where I was going back to is maybe for, let somebody talk there, get the name of the company you drive for, and have them stop and, well, instead of calling you, they let you know how to do that. But the other thing that really affects me is if the gentleman was on site working, sleeping or something, most couples that I know sleep at their door clock. And I don't know what occurred, I have no idea, but on the flip side, they sleep with their doors locked. And I don't think whoever went after them, like I said, that's just all speculation. But you do have a camera there from the fire company, which is good, and you have some light. My other suggestion is to have that for if they knew, if people knew that there was a patrol for the safety, I think, and I'm not talking safety, I'm talking Because some of the monies that come into the town are as a result of planning, and I think it would more than pay for itself to have someone so that the town is protected with its own officers. But, that was my comment, and, like I said, it was a horrible incident, but I also believe it was more of a domestic than a town. And I know people were scared, and I know the people that came up on the scene overheard the altercation and went out to see what they could do with the real upset. And that's sad for that. I'm sad for the victim. And the gentleman who was hopefully incarcerated, I don't know if he's had a problem with it.
No, he is.
But, hopefully he gets it.
Okay. Anyone else? Yes.
I'd like to give each one of you something just so you can look at it. I've been here before and somehow my words got misconstrued. So this is there two, somebody get two? So this is, we have E-code 360, correct? Everybody knows what that is? So on E-code 360, you're looking at the search mechanism and you see what I circled where it says that it includes all legislation until May of 2019. Except there's no resolution 30 of 2019, which happened in the organization, which is the gist of the constabulary, the assessment report that we had. It's all about number 30 of 2019. It was recommended to rewrite that policy. I don't know, has everyone seen this? Yes? Okay. I just had one copy. So nobody knows, I didn't ask for a job description. I'd like to see the actual town law where it's supposed to be, which is in E-code 360, where we have all our code. So I don't know why this has been neglected for years, but I'd love to see that corrected. And once we do that, we can talk about it. I did not come here to talk about what I'm going to talk about now. I'm very bothered by what happened in the parking lot. I knew the gentleman and I knew the arrangement. He talked to me about it. It's always bothered me. And Mike, when you spoke about it, you said we gave them permission to do that. Gee, folks. My opinion, that was a horrible idea. If you don't want to let Meg Smith park in the municipal parking lot, you shouldn't overnight. If I had a truck, if I'm sure I would get permission. You shouldn't give anybody permission. If the board decides to do something like that, then they should ask for a certificate of insurance and things that are very normal to ask for when you're caring for. We have let tree service, we made arrangements, and it was discussed in the meeting. So I don't know who we is, but I suggest you put a policy in place, because in my eyes, this should have never happened in our parking lot. And we brought this on ourselves by allowing it. And I again, I know quite a bit about
Were
it.
you looking for your bag?
Yeah.
Right up here. Yes.
We,
Sorry, excuse me. I apologize. The gentleman left his bag here before.
and again, we should consider that in the future. When we give anybody permission to do things on town property.
Any other comments tonight?
I do.
Oh, I was asking first from the public, Sue, and then we'll get to you. Anybody else from the public? Excuse me, from the public present. Excuse me. Okay. So, Ms. Brock,
Thank you. Just so everybody is really clear, it was my son and I who were the first people to come upon the gentleman in the parking lot. And I would like to comment on the attempted murder bludgeoning that happened in the municipal parking lot on December 30th. I do want people to know that I suffer from a brain injury that has been triggered by this event, so please bear with me as I'm reading. There are many points I would like to discuss, especially after now hearing the open-ended and cavalier comments from our town supervisor this evening, but I will limit it to 3 points. 1, this never should have happened on town property. Mike Baden is responsible and must be held accountable. He acted absent of a town board vote and authorized Daniel Manning to park overnight. He is either so incompetent or uncaring when it comes to public safety that a simple internet search revealed to me that Mr. Manning has been charged criminally many times, 2 of which were violent crimes. In this incident, Mr. Manning was the victim. However, Michael Baden invited violent crime into our town's municipal parking lot. 2, Michael Baden is not a king. The town of Rochester is
Brock,
not
if I could interrupt.
a monarchy. It is not a call and response, Mr. Baden. This is public
No.
comment.
Understood.
So stop talking. It's my turn to talk.
Ms. Brock, please let me finish.
No, I'm sorry. It's not your
I'm
turn to
sharing the
talk. Mr.
meeting.
Baden.
Please
It's
let-
my
please
turn to
allow me
talk.
finish. Please
Michael
allow me to
Baden
finish.
is not a king, and the town of Rochester is not a monarchy.
Do not.
Michael
the lawyer-
Baden is an elected official responsible for all of the
Would
people.
you tell her
of
that
this
you
town.
cannot do public personal attacks? These are personal attacks. You are allowed public comment, but not personal attacks.
In your professional capacity, you made decisions absent of a
enough.
town board vote.
Thank you.
Now I can continue.
Thank you.
It's an official, professional comment. So take it as such and stop taking it personally. He's an elected official responsible for all of the people of this town, whether they voted for him or not, whether they've been here 100 years or 10 minutes. Michael Baden, as a town supervisor, needs to be reined in. You as a board are a team and are also responsible to those who elected you. It is your responsibility to hold Michael Baden accountable. He acts outside his purview, which he has clearly done here, making exceptions to town policy without town approval or public comment. You are equal partners as a town board and yet have been excluded from Michael Baden's decision-making. Requiring a safety consultant to ensure that we have security cameras is the same as asking for an energy consultant to make sure we turn out the lights. I have private security cameras, as does the firehouse. It is not, however, my personal responsibility to provide public safety. Michael Baden, as town supervisor, lacks the concern, willingness, and ability to keep our people safe. That power needs to be returned to the constabulary. Michael Baden is working a part-time job with an iron fist instead of trusting people who work with him. By the way, with him, not for him. Instead of allowing people to do their job, he has inserted himself, included turning a part-time job into an imagined full-time job, squeezing our town budget for his own gain. As a result, creating unsafe situations for all of our people. Instead of attacking me on social media, he needs to spend our tax dollars working to protect attacks on our people from violent bludgeonings. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Grasso.
Sorry, I was at a previous town meeting. I just arrived. I guess my only concern is about the dark skies code that you guys are working on. I know that this is something that is in front of you today and on the agenda going forward. I just would like to ask that potentially we can speed up this process and potentially put this in place. I know that there's a lot of conversation and we have to go through the laws of making sure that this gets into effect, but it is affecting a portion of our town. And it needs to be rectified and addressed sooner than later, if that makes sense. That's all I have.
Good. Thank you.
I think another reason I want to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
In response to Mr. Glossa, if we do this size or lighting or whatever we're calling, will this affect those lights that are already existing? Or will they be grandfathered, which would not improve the situation
because
that
the
we
code-
are looking at?
It's not a back and
No,
forth.
no, I
It's- Yeah.
I know. Will this affect those lights that we are pretty much all discussing?
I'll answer you when we get the board member
And
time.
that's- and if so, I would hope so, because shades are just so good. I mean, wait till summer. I mean, I got the whole backyard with lights summer, but winter, not so much. Thank you.
Okay, board member time, and I will address that first.
Thank you.
What we are discussing, we are looking at some examples of existing codes from other areas. We found a very good template from, put out by the state of Pennsylvania that we are working from. There is a time period to have all properties come into conformance. So there would be a time frame that they would be allowed, they would be grandfathered as it's called for a certain amount of time, but there would be a deadline that they must come into conformance by that deadline. I've seen everywhere from 6 months to 10 years in the examples. So there you go. So we are reviewing all those examples and working toward a solution. So lighting, and many of you know that was my profession for 35 years, is a very complicated subject. It's in intensity of light, but different color temperatures of light have different reactions. Some are much more. So all that has to be considered. We are working hard on it. We're trying to work our way through and make sure we get something that is enforceable and feasible. A good choice of words. So the public comments done now. I apologize. It's not a back and forth. This is our board member time where we can potentially answer questions from people. So I'm not going to comment on the comments that were made tonight, but I will say the town board at the organizational meeting every year delegates to the supervisor hours of the day-to-day operation of the town, which includes everything that is the day-to-day operations of the town. The gentleman was not sleeping in his truck. I don't believe. If he was, I was not aware of it. He was parking. To answer the question, he was not walking. He had a vehicle, a car that was at his disposal when he came home. I believe that is the car that is parked over here right now in front of the truck, to travel to wherever he was staying. I do not know if he was still living in the area. He had not been here in quite an amount of time. Every time he arrived, he let me know he was here. As you said, and the we is the town. Yes, I am empowered to make decisions on the day-to-day operation, and I don't have to go to the board, ask them the okay. So we were trying to help someone who did not have the ability to park his vehicle at his home. He was here for a short duration, would leave. I don't know if he works for one company only. I believe he's an owner operator and he moves around quite a bit. So we are exploring, trying to identify, I believe the trailer to be empty at this time. I do also believe that he was meeting a family or a person he knew. I don't want to say it's a family member because I don't. He was meeting a person he knew there that day. And whatever escalated, this was the result. So it was, as I said, it was not an isolated. To address the other comment that was made, resolution 30 of 2019 is not a local law. The Eco 360 is our local laws. Those are chapters of the code of the town of Rochester. Resolutions are not included in there. We do not have a local law established in the constabulary. It was done by resolution prior to my, and from what I'm told, dates back to the 1700 something. So I will say that. I'm going to leave it at that. So the reason it is not included in this E-code 360 is not a part of our local code. So if the board wants us to consider making it a local law, we certainly can, but we have not at this time. Any other board members want to add any board member time?
I do. Just one correction, I heard you say it was 2:30 in the morning. It was in the incident that happened. Just wanted to let you know that that's in the middle.
Yes, it was 2:30 in the afternoon.
Also, just as a response to public comment, I do think that this incident brings up that we should have a policy about anyone that is allowed to overnight park. We should have a policy and a procedure for it and an application for it. There should be background checks on people if there's going to be people there, staying and people there. And that's important for public safety. And I do also think that we need to have either controls or security things put in and for our buildings. Especially the clerk's office, not just this incident, the clerk's office has millions of dollars come through in tax dollars. And the fact that we don't have any cameras there to monitor it seems to open us up to liability if something were to happen.
Great. Any other board members?
I am also interested in investigating cameras in general, something we've talked about with the transfer station. So I think this incident is the assault in the parking lot is very upsetting. I think it brings up some things that, it brings up emotion, but also it brings up that this is something that we could look into for town facilities. The other thing I wanted to say, not on that note, is I thought you did a great job addressing the questions reservating. One thing I would say is about the grandfathering in timeframe. That's the perfect kind of thing that this board is looking for input on when we have public hearings. So there will be a public hearing scheduled for this because it is a local law. And then the other thing that I think will be also, we will be working to make it as good as we can, but we'll specifically be wanting input on how to make it feasible because this will apply to everyone in town. So every light, every residence, every business. So, well,
Make it come in.
so
We probably don't have.
how we'll try to do in the draft what seems reasonable, but that we don't want to make it unreasonable for everyone. We want it to do the thing that we all want it to do. So that it will be applied equally to everyone. So we'll just want that. I just wanted to say that like we're going to do our best, but specifically that's the type of thing that when we have our public hearings, we really like to get that input on. That's it.
Okay, any other board members? because we have some people here from the public and because this topic is very pertinent, I'm gonna ask the board for their permission to take the agenda out of order. I'd like us to move to discussion item for the safety consultant RFP. I'd like to give you, each of the board members, a copy of this. I know you have not seen it emailed to you. I'm not expecting you to have heavy comment on it tonight. I want to talk about the idea. After our meeting Tuesday night, Councilwoman Smiseth and I had a very good conversation about the incident. We bounced a lot of ideas back and forth. We differ on some of our opinions. We concur on some of our opinions, as is the case with all of us. I don't disagree that cameras may be a good answer. I think, though, if we're going to move into this, that we explore all options and do it instead of doing it a little here, a little there, a little there. So I went home, and after our organizational meeting, I went home and Googled and started searching for RFPs out there for physical site security consulting services. Found this great example of a very well put together RFP, somewhat short in comparison to many others that were 50 or 100 pages long. This one was put out by the Battery Park City Authority for New York State. It is very recent. It was done in, I think, 19 or 20, if I remember correctly.
19.
19, okay. So what I would like is at our workshop meeting, I'd like you guys to look at this. I'll email it to you as well. I'd like you to look at this. Mary Lou, I also emailed it to you. I would like us to put out an RFP for a security consulting company, individual or company, whatever the case may be, to do a full scale look at all town properties, town owned properties, town utilized properties by the town government, and identify for us improvements, come up with a cost estimate, then we can go from there with budget. We can go from there with identification of what, there's going to be three categories. There's going to be the ones that you should do this immediately. There's going to be the ones of you should do this within the next few years. And then there's going to be the ones that would be, these would be nice to do, but you may not need them. I think this is the way to go. I think none of us are security experts. None of us know anything really about this topic. Yeah, we all know we could put up some cheap cameras and think that we've done something, but I would rather we hire professional, we get RFPs from professional services who do this for a living, just like we did the building condition survey 2 years ago. I think this is the way to go. So I'm going to open it up to you guys' thoughts and comments.
I want to say thank you for hearing me out and looking this up after we had our lengthy discussion. I do appreciate you hearing me out. And just my point of cameras is if you already have one building that has 24 cameras in it that are functioning, and that has to be on it with the courthouse and the annex already. So it just is, I understand that this is the first step, but I do want to just make sure that once this is done, it doesn't just get put on the back burner.
No.
We react very
No, but-
quickly once we have a review done.
And
My only
that's,
statement.
I apologize for sort of interrupting. That's what I want to do is get this moving right away, get replies back, within a month, and move forward with picking a company and getting them in here to do a study. And hopefully by the summer, we're moving into some answers. That's kind of my goal. The courthouse, that is somewhat required, and I'm not saying it was all paid for by New York State
Right.
Justice Court Systems grant money is what paid for that. Those cameras are all controlled and into the courthouse itself, so people there can see them.
Yes, and I know that. I just, and even summer, and I know that I might be the extremist of us when it comes to this, but my biggest takeaway and worry, with not just the incident that happened in the parking lot, but other incidents that have happened at different buildings in town, is I'm worried about the protection, like the summer, like we have children here all the time during the summer in our summer program. And even though that was a select incident, that was a domestic one, not having some type of safety feature in a building where children are watched does work. And same with the clerk's office of money, and same with the code enforcement office, where we have people who can get hostile about reactions to things in the assessor's office. So I would just like to try to make the priority of ensuring that.
And the supervisor's office.
And the
People get
supervisor's
hostile
office,
there
yeah,
too.
yeah. I need a building.
I know, I'm just, I.
Yeah, I can understand.
Yeah, I think,
Any other board members?
I think it's valuable to do this. I think also we definitely need to consider liability concerns. And I know the town's been sued and talking to our friend who represents municipalities. So we know it's a reality. I think the more we have kind of offering just not just protection or safety perspective, but protection for the residents in terms of liability is useful as well. And for that reason, I think it's good to have somebody who knows all of those factors. It's not just a safety concern. There's a number of things to be considered. So I would support it as well.
Yeah, I mean, again, obviously an incredibly unfortunate incident. The fact that it happened in the municipal lot is town property. The question I keep raising is what if it happened at the one-room schoolhouse? Would we only be, focusing on protecting or bringing safety to that? So I think the RFP is necessary at this point. I just kind of want to first say to, the family that was affected and then anybody else who is close to it physically, mentally, emotionally, believe me, I completely understand. But we do have to understand that, we have a very safe town. It's one of the great things about being here. Statistically, this is extraordinarily rare. With that said, communities to both the north and south of us, it's, becoming, more, again, we're seeing more violence, we're seeing, more domestic disputes, we're seeing more of everything. With that said, no matter what we do, no matter how much money we spend, we're never gonna figure for every contingency. If we sat down with every one of us at the beginning of the year and said, where can we allocate money to guarantee that, somebody doesn't get attacked in a parking lot, I don't think we would have came up with that. So again, if we're going to go ahead with, spending money for health, wellness, and safety, which is our number one priority, it can't be from what we're thinking about. It has to be what a professional is thinking.
I mean, I didn't know that you have this. So when I was like, we should look at it holistically, I think that this is the way to go. And when I haven't read it, obviously, the one thing I've been thinking a lot about, and I don't know if a consultant like this could help, but maybe we can discuss this at our workshop meeting, is some training for our staff to interact with the public.
We have done with our staff active shooter trainings. When we did the required sexual harassment trainings, we partnered with the town of Esopus for that, and every employee of the town was required to take that training. It was offered at 2 different times. Some people, because of other affiliations, had already done similar trainings and they were able to be excused, but they had to give us a sign off that they had completed the training. So we did that in 21. Yes. 21, I believe, where we did the active shooter. It was in this, it was like January or February because it was snow on the ground when we did it. I remember, but it was early in 21. We definitely we did not do it in 2022. And we will be doing it again in 2023.
Yeah, and one thing I've just discussed with a few staff members is level down from that, which I think is also important, but there's some de-escalation techniques. There's trainings like that, maybe you could either get recommendations or think about in addition to.
Things like that, we can confer with our HR consultant who has sources for these things. And our
Where's the 40 then now? Let them help do that.
and our health insurance provider, broker, Marshall and Sterling, who we work with, has those, the ability to assist in those trainings as well. So I will, please take a look at this. I'm not saying, feel free to look around yourself and see if you find others. I found this one. I looked at a number of others. I really like the conciseness of it. It's to the point. But I think it's very broad scope, and I think that's what we need, because we're just starting from scratch here. We don't have a partnership or an affiliation with a security company. We have our constabulary, but we do not have a partnership with any security company. I would be very open to any recommendations that they can make of what we can do. And, there would be sort of short-term goals, longer-term goals that we can achieve. If you find a better or other examples, by all means, feel free to share them with all the board members. Mary Lou, so if you could sort of review this RFP, and this, obviously, it's written for Battery Park City Authority, so some things will have to change in the language, but in general, an awful lot of the verbiage is very similar to what we would put out.
Okay,
So if you could kind of review it, let me know.
I will do that.
Since we're on discussion, does the board want to just sort of continue on discussion items, and then we can go circle back to resolutions, which are pretty quick?
I need you to do the resolution quickly,
Okay,
and I need to block E and E together.
okay.
I'll second that.
So for the public, in order to we talked to the organization, in order to try to speed up the meeting, some of the resolutions that are somewhat every meeting, we're going to block them occasionally. So I have a motion to block resolution D and E, which is action on the minutes and acceptance of donations. Block them together.
I second it.
Okay. So we're going to vote on both at the same time. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained.
I still think that we should read every single one of these, that it's not the reason this meeting's taken longer, and it's full disclosure.
Okay.
Nick.
Okay. That's fine. Establishing a special meeting, Town of Rochester Town Board sets a special meeting to be held Tuesday, January 17th, 2023 at 6 p.m. The Harold Lipton Community Center, 15 Tobacco Road, Accord, for the purposes of interviews of prospective candidates to be appointed to volunteer boards and commissions. Town clerk is requested to publish legal notice. The meeting is expected to be held in executive session. Have that motion.
I'll make that motion.
Have a second.
I'll say.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Did we vote on E and E, or did we just vote? to block them?
No, by voting on, you made
Oh,
the
got it.
motion,
Okay.
block them and accept them in the same motion. Otherwise, it would kind of defeat the purpose of. Next motion, signing a contract with Ring Squared. We had already talked about this, but I have new numbers for you from the cutoff presses from this morning. I apologize, it's a wide spreadsheet, so you kind of have to put the 2 pages together, but ultimately the column, yeah, I know. The column you care about is the proposed monthly, which currently is which their proposal is a $7.68 a month decrease from what we're paying right now for our phone connections. However, the 2 red ones that are highlighted, the 2 phone lines, those are the 2 phone lines that we identified as we could remove. So we will be doing a cancellation notice with Verizon for those and canceling those 2 lines. So we will be saving, in addition to the $7.68 a month, an additional $19.90. So we'll be saving about $27 a month on our phone service. Okay, that amounts to $350 a year approximately. So, and in comparison, if we don't sign the contract with the new Verizon rates that we would be paying, it would go up $222 a month. So I think it's a no-brainer. So I'm gonna ask for a motion. The Town of Rochester Town Board authorizes the supervisor to sign the contract extension proposed by Ring Squared, 14 Industrial Avenue, Suite 4, Mahwah, New Jersey, for Town of Rochester phone line service as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Have a second. Okay, any questions or discussion?
I just want to make sure us transitioning to them, it's not gonna make any equipment change, it's
Nope.
just literally the service.
So Ring Squared provides the line into every building in town, both data
Okay.
and phone. We then contract with CrossPoint for this building in the town hall that they service and provide the lines internally in the building plus the equipment. We are currently under contract with Ring Squared. If we extend our contract, we're able to get in on some sort of pricing that they're able to offer, as opposed to if Verizon raises their rates, which they are in process of doing. Once they get the permission to raise their rates, probably by the summer, the rates would jump up to that new per month. So we are able to continue with Ring Squared. Nothing will change from what we have now, with the exception that the two lines that we identified that we no longer use.
I just want to make sure it wasn't be a change in lines
Nope.
that go to the wrong office or anything after we switch somewhere. so.
No equipment change, no change at all, except, we'll get a different bill. And we'll sign a new, and it is a month-to-month contract. There is no duration on the contract. So at any time, we could say, we don't want to use you guys, we want somebody else. So, we've been using Ring Square since 2015, I want to say, 16. Supervisor Chipman identified them and they've been a very good company for us. It's, for the public, our phone line system essentially costs about $1,000 for all our phone lines. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Two added resolutions. I'm asking, and this is a copy of the language of the resolution that you guys. And apologies that this was not in the agenda. So I'm gonna make a motion pursuant to General Municipal Law 9A, Town of Rochester Town Board authorizes the supervisor to cause a loan to be made by the general fund to the highway fund in the amount of $200,000. Said loan to be repaid in full, including the monthly interest generated by the amount of the loan, as soon as the 2023 highway fund taxes are received and not later than February 28, 2023. Have that motion.
I'll make that motion.
In a second.
A second.
Okay, so for explanation, as the town clerk or deputy clerk said, they're collecting taxes. The taxes are remitted to the supervisor at the end of January to early February, because the residents have until January 31st day. So a partial payment is usually made around the third week of January. A final payment is made in February. Both the general fund and the highway fund are operating on a fund balance at this point. The general fund is doing just fine. The highway fund is short. So this is a loan to cover them until the time those taxes come in, at which time they'll collect their full complement of taxes, be able to pay us back and move forward. So it's essentially so we can keep roads operating.
But this is in addition to the ARPA money?
We are, the upper money we already approved, that was already moved over, that's included in that report. So this is just to functionality for January and probably.
And then we have an additional 100,000.
Correct. That will be back posted, not backdated, but back posted, and it will go against 20. And possibly even more funding. There is about 45 or 50,000 still available that was not applied for, that Jeff is now looking again to see if we can find anything else apply for. Get that.
But we
additional.
got the original $100,000. They paid that back at the end of the year.
500,000.
Yeah, sorry, the 500,000, that was. paid
That
back.
had to be paid back by the end of December. We're doing a similar thing now, which by law has to be paid back by December of 2023. But because they're going to be receiving $1.4 million in taxes in February, they will then be able to pay us back. And
And this will come out of there, this is all 2023 budget, so
yes,
in theory, it shouldn't affect.
I mean, I don't deny we're gonna have to really monitor highway costs in 2020. We pretty much used up the fund balance now at this point. Once we do the final reconciliation 2020, well, no, where we stand. But it's cost overruns. It's, you know, that 4% above his budget was the cost of living 8.5% increase. And that's the,
Mike, we haven't had a chance to talk about this.
it's not public comment.
We had, this was not on the agenda for us to discuss.
Understood. It's not public comments, but the board can decide. It's a loan of money. The board can decide whether to do it or not.
And we should be able to talk about it too.
I apologize, but no, there's no requirement that public comments on every resolution. So this is a loan
Mike,
for,
you can get mad at me. Can you get this money back legally from the highway?
yes,
The general fund can loan to the highway. I was not aware that the highway pay back the
B,
general.
it's not public comment, but I will answer the question. You can, the town board is allowed to loan money from the general fund to the
Yes.
highway fund. Is not taking back money, is not moving money from the general highway to the general. It is repaying a loan, and that is 100% legal. We did it already in 2022. We're doing it again in 2023 as I'm proposing.
Why is it not on the agenda?
Because it was added, because it was discovered at the end of the year with the financial. So,
And it was placed on the agenda at the beginning of the meeting. Mike said there would be
Right.
2 additional resolutions.
so what's the board's pleasure? Comments? I mean, if we don't do it, we're not gonna be able to make that.
No, that's,
The 100,000 probably would be okay, but it's being paid back to us in 6 weeks. I'm not sure I understand the problem. No. It's allowing us to be able to pay the bills in January.
I think the problem is running us front loading them last year and then we just gave 100,000 of ARPA money and now we're
Yep.
doing another. loan.
I
It's
understand.
concerning as far as running the business aspects of the town, that over $250,000 is required because of.
So the 500,000,
It's not things like the budget. I'm fine with approving this because it's a loan and it's coming back so quickly in February, but I don't think we should make this a standard
No,
practice that
so-
happens.
so the 500,000 was because the CHIPS money was spent during the course of the year and was not submitted until the final quarter, or the third quarter in this case, because the state's year runs April till March. So that is their third quarter. So the loan was until the 447,000 of it came back, and it should have been 547,000. So that loan was just to, when that money came in, they paid us back. So essentially, we were floating them the money. That wasn't a financial issue. The 100,000 in ARPA is for the overages. Our fuel costs are close to 100% greater than what we budgeted. It's just it's the situation right now, and we see it in theirs more than our budget, because our budget is a lot of people and insurance and things that don't have the same day-to-day inflationary issues.
yeah, bottom line is the biggest expense for the highway department is gasoline, whether it's moving the trucks, moving material, whether it's the asphalt itself made out of petroleum. Went from $2 a gallon to $4 a gallon. There's nothing we can do about it. You know, and again, another thing we couldn't say.
Yeah.
But the good news is we do have a fund balance. The good news is we don't have to go out to a private place to take a loan.
Right, I mean, otherwise, they could take out a bad and pay it off over several years, but then we'll pay the interest.
I understand, I guess where my misunderstanding is when we voted on giving them the 100,000 from ARPA money to cover what they did not get from CHIPS. It was explained as that was gonna cover them till the taxes came in. Now we're approving another 200,000.
No, I apologize, the 100,000 in ARPA was to cover the overages, not to cover the money for chips. It was, what I was saying is when we thought that 100,000 was gonna come in January, I did say we would pay it back from that chips money. But, the 100,000 wasn't to cover the chips. The 100,000 was always to cover the overages because they're over budget because of everything was much more expensive than we anticipated in September of 2021.
Yeah, and I understand that, Mike, but when you explained it to us in the meeting, you said that that combined with their balance in their bank account should last them until the taxes came in.
I
That's
thought it
where
would
got you.
until
Okay, that's what is
yeah.
connected.
Until essentially about 4 o'clock this afternoon, when I did the final tally of all the numbers, and I went, ooh, it's worse than I thought it was.
I think you are doing a very good job trying to keep this
Thank you.
going. And I think we just are like, okay, we need to, like you said, we have to really watch the highway budget, because if there are places where if we don't start to see these trends again, maybe there's some stuff we do need to,
Right.
that is not required.
Mhm.
We have a few vehicle purchases. There's some things that maybe if we do see this trend happening again, we could. I think that's the lesson that we all just need to, because at a certain point, I mean, we are in a great place. Thank you, Mike, and thank you for catching this stuff. But at a certain point, we don't want to run through that. The
I mean,
pattern.
in a way, we're in a repeat of where the town was for highway back 10 years ago. The highway actually, a couple times on paper was in negative numbers. Quite honestly, I don't know how they continue to operate. I can't figure it out. I think back then a lot more money was commingled. Our budgets now are so defined that, I'm able to track it day to day, if not almost hour to hour of expenditures. And in being able to predict ahead, knowing what the cost of our expenses in January are gonna be. Without this money, could we make it? Maybe. But we just approved the other night, $32,000 worth of insurance policies that had to be paid to the broker the first week in January. And that's the highway portion of it. And that's expenses that are gonna last them the whole year. But we get revenue on a day-to-day basis every time somebody walks into the clerk's office, every time somebody walks into the planning board office, every time somebody goes to the transfer station, we get revenue. The highway only gets revenue primarily from taxes and CHIPS money. That's about it. There's a couple other places they get money from. Those are they get huge payments in one shot, and then they gotta make that money last all year. January is always, for the highway, is a kind of skin of their teeth kind of thing. In the past, we've had enough cushion in the fund balance that we could operate. This year, we don't because of the situation. So I agree, we need to monitor it, but I don't think we overspent. I think we bought things that we normally would buy. I think, our parts budget was way over budget. Our oil, our fuel was over budget. Our paving stuff was over budget. So it's all relatable to commodities.
It would be good to see those trends, and I think we talked about.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's part of why I do give you.
No, I know,
guys
but in
the
like a
monthly-
digital copy, Excel version, right? It's on paper's fine,
Okay,
but so we can see where
Yeah,
it's changed.
yeah, I can email you that report so. But believe me, I monitor that every single day. And I kind of saw this coming, but I wasn't sure. Like I said, we could have probably done 100. I like to do 200 because we have it in our fund balance. I'd rather not have to come back to you guys 2 weeks from now and say I need another 100. I'd rather put 200 in and 6 weeks from now, pay it back to us and we'll move on.
God forbid we get a heavy snowstorm or
Yeah,
something between now and then, just the overtime.
I mean, this time of year, our highway payroll is about 20,000. It is what it is. Okay, did I make a, ask my motion in a second? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. Okay. Next is the Catskill Watershed Corporation. Every year has nominations for their board of directors. They're asking for a nomination from us. I have been contacted by Supervisor Parody from Marbletown, who currently holds the seat. He has requested that we nominate him to serve again. Every town that is in the DEP area, we have a tiny little piece in part of Rochester that's in the DEP, which is why we get the vote. So I would ask that the board authorize the supervisor to nominate Rich Parody to serve for 4-year term on the Catskill Watershed Corporation. Any questions or discussion? Through our membership in this, one benefit we do get is they offer a lot of funding opportunities, and including like replacing people's septic systems if they fail. And it doesn't have to just be in the piece that's in the Watershed Corporation area. People within the entire town, I'm told, can qualify, and many Rochester people have taken advantage and utilized that. There's also other funding opportunities. The septic is one that is very, has a lot of notoriety. I'll leave it at that. You know, if your septic system is in need of repairs, because it's in the DEP's interest to keep all the area. Because the other result is they'd be spending billions of dollars on a pollution system that they don't want to spend. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained. I'll be coming back to you at some point in probably March to ask for us to vote on the candidate. So. And that's it for resolutions. Moving on to the ambulance district contracts. I asked our attorney to go through the current contracts. Christina, I didn't get a copy of this one. I'm sorry. 185. Oh, wait, Adam, can you? That's the Marbletown one. This is the K-Pass one. Our attorney has gone through. Oh, didn't go very far. Sorry, Adam. Mary Lou, do you want to just sort of take it? From the beginning and just sort of, so these are our two existing contracts that we had on them prior to the ambulance. To the two agencies. So I've asked Mary Lou to go through the existing contract and just make.
Let me pull up the existing contract, but I can tell you that the changes that I made were really to change it from a stipend that we gave them last year as part of agreement to make it fit in with an ambulance district, because now we're contracting with them under the auspices of our ambulance district. So that's the changes you're going to see.
So how does the board want to do this? Do you want to go through change by change and ask Mary Lou questions? And then the question remains is, do we, as a board, feel that we need to add anything else to the contract now that we're an ambulance district, as opposed to just a stipend that we were paying them? potentially in terms of response rate or anything like that. And, you know, Michael will be back out in a moment and can comment on that. So, given that most of Mary Lou's changes are essentially naming changes,
I was gonna say, maybe just go over where she's taken out a whole passage.
Yeah.
And with the one suggestion on termination.
and Mary Lou, your question that you posed on the K-Pass one, you said, is this amount budgeted? And the answer is yes. We created the 2 special districts, and the amount of taxes was.
I just wanted to make sure because that was the same
Yep.
figure that we were talking about last year. And I was pretty sure it remained the same for the ambulance district. I just wanted to be
Yep.
sure.
Yeah,
So which
it
are we
is-
looking at first?
Let's do High Falls first.
Okay, so Michael, what we're gonna do is we're gonna look through Mary Lou's changes. You know, the High Falls one, a red line, the other one, we only had a PDF copy, so they're handwritten changes. And then I think we would like to have a discussion if the board feels that we should add anything else or take away anything from this contract based on the fact that it's a district rather than a stipend. So, so the first change is just, we're just changing. We're taking out the High Falls area served, we just say ambulance.
Well, yeah, but I couldn't remember which, like Mike Coleman earlier, I couldn't remember what you'd named each of the
Oh.
districts after you talked to the county and they needed you to change them. So I
Yeah,
need you
so-
to fill in the
Yeah, so
proper
this
district.
will be High Falls
Okay,
Ambulance District. Okay, now the next whole section you've removed. So as Charlotte was asking, what's the basis on that?
well, unfortunately, it's not opening on my computer, so give me a minute to try and get this to open. But if not, I have it in my,
You have it in your email where you emailed it to me. If that
that's
helps.
that's where I'm trying to open it from, and it's not opening. So I have to go back to, my documents. Give me just a minute.
It's just because this is a now kind of district.
Yes.
Yeah, I think.
So previously, we were paying them out of the general fund tax.
Right.
General fund taxes, not a taxing district.
Just to help.
Just
supply-
that.
The next section I took out was, that paragraph said that they couldn't operate the Marbletown First Aid Squad without our help. That's not what we're doing here. That would have been the stipend.
Okay,
The base, so what we're doing here, so I took it
Okay.
out completely. We're just contracting with them.
so we're creating a district and hiring them to be our vendor.
Right,
As opposed to
Right.
last time, we were gifting them the funds.
in,
To operate.
right, in exchange for them.
Fair enough. That makes sense. I think the next change is, it speaks for itself. The next several changes are all just changing district to. So page 2, does anybody have any issues or questions on that? That's all just naming issues.
No.
Okay. Looks the same on page 3 to me, same.
Yep.
Page 4 looks, it's just year changes. So page 5 is the next big change.
Right, now this was about our subsidy. I would present it to them with this language taken out, the
Fair
500
enough.
taken out, but if they may have other language they would like to propose in its place.
Yep.
But that's just said that it's gonna go to the subsidy. We're not giving them a subsidy.
Okay. Well, we'll present this to them. This contract was the contract that their attorney drew
Yep.
up for Marbletown. So I'm assuming that they won't have any issues with this language changes, or they'll have some other proposal.
Right,
So does anybody have any problem with taking out that subsidy? 6, 7, no changes. 8, no changes. 9. Page
So-
9, section 10.
right. Right now, the town can terminate upon 60 days written notice, and Marbletown can terminate upon 60 days written notice. You might want to think about that because we have an ambulance district. People are paying for that ambulance district through their taxes. And if they terminate, what do we do?
I think we should take it out and it just terminates at the end of the year when we create the new taxation.
I agree.
It'll be a 1-year contract and we could even make it renewable at the board at mutual agreement for next year's.
You're saying remove.
Yep.
Sorry.
Well, I think we should remove the wording of what's there and rewrite it to say that it shall terminate December 31, 2023, and may be renewed upon consent of both
Yeah, well, we
parties.
already have the termination date in here.
Okay,
Mary
We
Lou,
have
are
that. So you can put in, if you want to, that you can renew it, but you're gonna have to vote on it anyway, and
that's
you can
true.
just enter into a new
Yeah,
contract.
we
with
probably
new
shouldn't,
date.
actually, now I think about it, we probably
And
shouldn't
right,
renew it.
the amount that you pay them, the financial amount that you pay them may be different, so you don't
It
want to
will
just.
change, yeah, from year to year as it's budgeted. So-
Right,
So this probably shouldn't be renewable. So then section 10 though should just be removed totally. Because you said the other date is already in here?
yes, yeah, I have the
Okay.
term of the contract.
Leave
Earlier.
remove it or leave the section and just say reserved or reserve the numbering.
It won't matter
Yeah,
because everything else can just change up a number.
Mary Lou, though, are we protected through this contract in the unfortunate event that something might happen, say, to the squad, that they would be unable to provide service?
Well, then we have a breach of contract.
Okay,
That's contract.
so since it says they're providing a certain level of service 365 days a
If-
year.
If we find out that they're not, we can
Okay.
sue them for breach
I
of
just wanted to make
contract.
sure, yeah, okay.
That's contract. So 10 will remove entirety. And then we'll just renumber accordingly, just change the
Mhm.
number on each. So, and yeah, I see in the miscellaneous, that section, you removed just,
Right, because that was just saying that
we
we're,
did
that contract
exactly what
was,
we say we're gonna do there. We had
Yep.
more
but that's done.
conversation and that's done.
Mhm.
So now we have all that. There is nothing in here about service.
Expectations. What are
Expectations,
If
so,
they never respond to one call, we're gonna pay them the same as far as this contract is.
well, no, if they don't, they
Well,
violated their contract.
Well,
No, I
this-
mean, I'm sorry.
This contract has two things in it. One is 3.1. Provide basic life support ambulance service to residents of the district and to non-registered medical emergencies. Will be solely responsible for supplying, maintaining that whole section.
Mhm.
Then the second one that they have is 3.3, provide
Yep.
or arrange for the provision of EMS 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for all persons requiring such services.
So
So that is kind of.
So that means they can subcontract.
but it also means last month that they were breached that contract, so only did 97% of it. They didn't fulfill it, not to what this said.
It says provide or arrange.
Yeah.
So,
Did those other 3% get a ring?
Probably.
Yeah, there was probably whoever was,
I mean, I don't think any contract has an expectation of an EMS of
No.
100%.
No, but I think what the discussion was when we originally looked at this is what's our minimum bar?
So,
When
yeah, but-
When KFAS slipped down into the 80s, we knew we had to do something, whatever. So
You know, they were providing, play a little counterpoint here, Adam. They were providing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They just were not able to respond because they were likely on another call at that time. So, they were still providing for, and the county dispatch has the mutual aid system set up for that reason. So, I don't think there's an expectation that any ambulance service is 100%.
And that's not what I'm getting at. What I'm getting at is what's the floor? And should
Well,
that be in
that's-
here or shouldn't?
Well, that's right.
I don't know, and then there's the question of what is a successful response, because in varying degrees, does that mean is the benchmark when you reach the patient? Is the benchmark when the ambulance, and I ask these questions not to be sarcastic, but if differing people treat the successful call differently. Is it when the ambulance rolls out of the squad? Is that the successful? Is it when it gets there? Is it so? Michael, you know more about this.
I don't know about how they make the distinction between,
I can
Dispatch.
speak to,
the county would determine that.
I can speak to the county and the EMS coordinator and ask him what their benchmark is, what they use for a response.
But I guess.
The question is, do we want to put
Yeah.
a percentage in or not?
And how would we build that into the contract? So if for some reason that percentage did get low, are we asking for the money back, or we can't, like, what, we would need to know how we would be funding to that.
Yeah, I don't think we want to start asking for money back, but I would.
No,
I
it
would
only
think-
exacerbates the problem.
Yeah, but I would think asking, for them to be accountable in some form, and not financially maybe, but to at least answer why. So,
I thought that we had a conversation about this in a previous meeting. We decided not to set a percentage.
we did that on the stipend.
Right.
Now we're
Oh,
talking
okay,
about
on the
district.
stipend only, not per
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
Okay.
we did.
So like, I could have sworn.
Yeah,
already
we were
Oh, we
gonna-
had
take a
we had that conversation with the stipend, and now we're dealing with the district.
My
Same
thing is,
concept.
is both ambulance squads are doing a very nice job with response, right now. But again, this contract's not for right this second when everything's going well. I think there's some language in there. Things don't go well, again, we just talked about the highway department and things not going well that we're, and you can't make, again, every contingency, but should there be something in here that talks about response rate and how that's quantified?
And like we pay them after the tax year, what, it's 1 month. check,
One lump
correct?
sum,
Yeah,
pay-
I don't think it was just about the stipend that we talked about this, like, I can go back and watch the meeting, but I know we talked about that they get 1 month sum, and it's just if they don't meet our standards, we can contract with someone else in limited contract, but we decided. Maybe we only decided.
no,
after
that
this year.
was, I think that
Or
was,
didn't we
yeah.
go there? But we talked about that. 1 lump sum payment, it's not like they have to meet a certain standard every quarter, and then we won't quarter contract someone else,
Well, we talked about that we could do that.
that we could. but
We could pay them quarterly, but because we're collecting taxes, it's better if we give them,
Yeah.
once we collect the taxes, we move the money to the vendor that we've hired. And they're collecting the interest on that amount of money, they're using it as they need.
Yeah, I don't have an issue with including some kind of level of service component to this. I think the other question though is, what's the
Guys,
mechanism?
excuse me, can I ask that, it's really distracting for us, we're trying to conduct business. We appreciate it, but thank you.
What's the process? So if you fall below 85%, is there a meeting that happens with the board of taxation committee? No, it's committee. I was wrong on that commission.
It is committee.
What happens, what's the recourse? Yeah, because I don't think it's like we're gonna try and claw back money, but there should be some kind of discussion. And we're talking about model time for a safety unit right now, but I think KFAS is still in a hybrid model where they're doing volunteer, and we appreciate all of that, but there's gonna be time, there's gonna be hiccups, It's not like, oh, you messed up one time and therefore we're back in line.
No.
So I think we need to figure out what we want that to be, and as long as we're getting reported and we feel the patient is good, I think we're doing our responsibility in terms of the tax dollars. But it's an open question what that is.
Well, that's the big thing is, you think about, hybrid model or fully paid, and employee shortages and things like that. Again, my biggest thing is I think there should be a percentage in there, but there, to your point, I don't know what the consequences would be with any, other than, I started thinking of employee improvement programs, but, but not put something in the contract that has that in there. It almost seems like, whatever happens, happens.
Well, I mean, it does say, as Aaron talked about 3.1 and 3.3, and then 3.4 talks about coordinating provision of EMS in the district by other ambulance services and providers of EMS as mutual aid.
Right,
I
but
mean-
I think, Mary Lou, if you want to, like a level of service agreement to be enforceable, you need to have bottom threshold. Like, if you're doing that in computers and you want uptime, 5 nines uptime, you have to say you're not going to be down for X time, X many hours, within the year. So I think otherwise, the language that Aaron's pointing out, I mean, they could make an argument. Yeah, we're provisioning. We have people. We have the equipment. As Mike said, we're already dispatched, so you can't fault us if we have 2 rigs and they're both out servicing, emergencies. We can't be held responsible for that. So, I mean, that's the other thing. When is it not?
And well, and then, I mean, the other thing is that it's $12,500 that you're giving them. And I would suspect they're going to need a lot more to say they will always have someone to service every call.
Again, I think we all agree that the 100% is not the goal. It's the minimum threshold. But I think about the taxpayers in that district that are paying 22 cents per thousand, and now for service, and what's our obligation to them to make sure that there's a minimum level of service.
So I'm looking at when we had a lot of examples, Marlboro, which contracts with not a volunteer or community, but a paid service. They have a response time criteria. It says, we'll respond to all 911 emergency EMS calls immediately upon being dispatched. I'm paraphrasing a little, and be en route to the call location within 2 minutes of receiving. Exception to this response is when additional calls arise when the on-duty contracted ambulance is already on an emergency. And then they do periodic meetings. The town and MLSS will each assign appropriate designees to meet on a scheduled basis to discuss issues, including response times, questions, concerns regarding services. In part, that's what our committee is doing. They're advising the town board on budget, but they also can advise the town board on other aspects as well.
I think that,
So-
I'm sorry, Mary.
Maybe- Okay, maybe the thing to do is I know, Michael, that you worked on the KFAS contract. Are you our liaison to our ambulance?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, districts.
Yeah,
So
it's a good-
maybe, if we want to look at these things, I think that probably the thing to do is to have Mike and Mike, and if you want me there, that's fine. If you don't, that's fine. Sit down with representatives of the ambulance, the 2 different companies, and work out what's reasonable. Because if we just put stuff in and send it to them, it's going to go back and forth, back and forth. Let's sit down and hammer it out.
Yeah, and the other problem is we're working a little backwards, right? Because we asked them for the budget, we got the money. If we suddenly want to change the goalposts and say, oh, well, we need to have 2 backup crews, like they might say, sure, but there's going to be this much of a tax.
Do that for 12.5, right?
See, I'm, the one that Mike just referenced on, I don't think we want to micromanage it for the amount of minutes, but having board review on a fairly, on a scheduled basis, obviously makes sense. So, but
Bear in mind, their contract is for $327,000.
Yeah. I think that we're getting
Marlboro.
I think Mary Lou's idea is probably the best. I think we're
Oh,
getting
okay.
the same thing with the camera idea. None of us have worked security before, so we don't know the answer to that. None of us are EMTs or run an ambulance squad, so we don't have the answer of what would be an appropriate, reasonable response rate that they should be reaching without asking someone who's in that.
Yeah, so, I mean, maybe we should approach this from different. If the goal for this initial year is to provide some kind of level of comfort that we're being responsible with tax dollars. Maybe we put something in here like they will meet quarterly with our new taxation board and kind of discuss numbers. We could ask for the report directly from the county, so the county numbers will both.
No, actually, we can't. County cannot provide that.
Well, we can ask them.
Oh, yeah, we can ask the
From county
agency.
to provide it.
County can't provide.
Right.
Number 7.2 of the contract calls for them to quarterly, 15th day of January, April, July, and October, provide the town with reports prepared by MFAU or its billing vendor demonstrating the number of calls in the High Falls area, generating bills, amounts, bills, revenue received. So maybe we can add something in there, that number of calls, et cetera. Well, it says number of calls, but
Yeah. Well, that's where I'm thinking we could add, meet with our ambulance tax advisory committee. Is that right? To review those numbers and budgets and et cetera.
Yeah, instead of
yeah,
giving.
so we
the-
could
send them the
talk to
quarterly
them
report.
about that, adding that into 7.2.
There.
Well, they still need to send the report to us as a board. Because, yeah, but they can have a quarterly meeting to discuss issues and. Okay,
And that board's a liaison, so, seeing anything that's concerning, they can have conversations and bring back.
Right.
so. Now moving on to the KFAS contract.
All right, let me pull that one up.
The changes, the first changes are just date changes. We should say we'll pay over to them on or before February. We probably should put that date at, what's the second, like the second Friday in February. What's that date?
Yeah, and you might want to consider doing it quarterly like you're doing for Marbletown.
We're not paying them quarterly, we're paying them in one lump sum.
Marbletown?
Oh, well, we paid quarterly last year in
And that's what's
in
in
the,
the contract right now.
yeah, but now we're gonna go, we had already talked, we're gonna go to one lump sum. So
Oh,
we'll
okay,
need
you have to change that in the Marbletown contract.
Um,
Okay.
Where was that, Mary Lou, do you remember?
In the Marbletown contract?
Yeah,
No, because I just took that off my screen.
okay, we'll find it. Here, what is it? 4.1.
Yeah.
4.1.
Yeah.
So-
it says pay-
Oh, yeah, we have to
pay
change that
before,
amount
so-
too.
Yeah.
Okay.
15.
It is 15,500, it was 12,500 last. year.
Okay.
So
So on the KFAS, why don't you just make it February 15th on both of them? Gives you
Okay.
time to get the taxes in.
Yep.
And get the
Yep.
check written.
Got it. So I'll just, yeah, we'll write in February 5th. Got it. Yeah, 7, changing, that needs to change to September 1st.
Right.
because the Preliminary budget or the tentative budget is due the 30th, so.
Yep.
The insurance is still the same. The rest is essentially the same with the exception of the last page.
Yeah, if they're sending, if we're sending things to their attorney, I want them sending them to me.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask them if, now that we're in agreement, if we can just send them to their treasurer because
Yeah,
they now.
Either way is fine with me.
Yeah.
So just get that taken, and they put registered, I changed it to certified. The Marbletown one also has registered, it's fine. If, if you don't mind paying a little bit more,
Got it.
especially with mail the way it is these days. Not to sound like a curmudgeon, but
Okay,
I think we should have in the Groton one, we don't have this same similar wording and section that we do in the Marbletown one on the quarterly reporting.
Right.
And a meeting, so we should just copy that same exact language.
Yep.
from the Marbletown.
From the
into
Marbletown and the so that we get that
Yep,
report and we
yep.
can have a meeting report
Yep.
also.
So
That
that,
would go in 6.
so that's
Um,
the item.
Yeah, we just have quarterly statements. We don't list the months on it.
so let's make those match. And also, I mentioned in my email that on the Marbletown one, there's a section included saying that they're going to provide the workers' comp, et cetera. And I think maybe we want to put that in the KFAS one as well.
Yeah,
Are
where
we-
is that?
In the
I see.
Marble Town,
9.3, insurance.
so there's something about, yeah, workers'
Yeah,
comp
workers.
in there. I'd
workers benefit
like to
insurance.
include that in the,
Yeah, add KFAS, yep.
and I think that maybe.
And
next
actually,
year,
in
I mean,
both, I need to provide a certificate of insurance naming the town as a co-insured. Is that-
We have that.
I think that's in both.
Yeah, no, I think that's-
Okay,
And same with,
And I think that next year, we're kind of
well,
taking.
we'll
the-
start this earlier next year. and get-
Right, well, and I think once you have your committee in place, I think a goal
Yeah.
next year
Yep.
would be to make both of these contracts mirror images of one another.
Yeah,
but hopefully the committee will make that proposal. to
Right.
us.
Right.
Yep.
There is something I don't know how to. It's subtle, but there's a little bit of the tone in the Marble Town contract with those sections that we were looking at, that, the 3.1 and the 3.3.
yeah.
There's something a little different, and I'm trying to put my finger on it, and I don't know what that is, but I was thinking maybe we could there's a couple words, maybe we could.
Well, now that we've had a successful moving on, this KFAS contract was kind of let's get something done. We might be able to include the language 1 and 3.3 into the KFAS contract. as
Right, and in
it's written.
KFAS, that would be in paragraph 5.
Yeah. So. Is that along the lines of what you're thinking,
Yeah.
Aaron? If I just take that language, put it in the KFAS contract?
Yep.
No different from what they're saying, but it's saying it better.
It's a little bit more complete.
So I do have a question, because in the contract that they agreed to for last year, one of the differences is it says, in the KFAS contract, services provided by ambulance shall be available on a 24-hour, 365 days a year basis. And then in parentheses, it says, including through the use of mutual aid.
Right.
Whereas in the High Falls one, it says, provide or arrange. Is that saying the same thing?
Well, if you have 3.1 and 3.3, and then you go to 3.4, which also talks about mutual aid. That's where Marbletown talks about
So,
mutual aid.
yeah, so the
3.4.
ambulance squads don't arrange for the mutual aid, the county does.
Okay.
But if they're unable to respond and they're dispatched and they either don't respond to the dispatch or say unable to respond, the county then goes to one of the mutual aid
But that's,
services
so
in the
that's saying the
area.
same thing. So by.
It's kind of saying the same thing.
by
Yeah,
saying
I think
provide
they're probably
arrange,
getting a
they're
little
saying
more.
to-
I think we're getting a little more from Marbletown.
Marbletown is saying, hey, if we're out of coverage, we'll make the arrangement, to make sure you're covered.
And
KFAS
if
is
not,
saying,
there's mutual
if
aid.
we're not available, county's gonna do it under mutual.
Okay.
Yeah, so Marbletown is more of taking the responsibility if they're not available to make sure it's covered. But the county has I don't know if it's a
Right.
legal requirement, but they certainly do. That's why they have,
Right.
and each district gets to say whether they want to be mutual aid or not. So
Well, I
they have a
think I would
list.
want to keep the KFAS, that one for KFAS in there, because because that's how they're operating.
Yeah, and they're
But-
two very different because
Right.
Marbletown they have a contract for 24/7 with a paid service. KFAS currently, unless they've added more, has 36 hours a week that they're with paid technicians. They're not, it's still their ambulance, but it's paid EMTs to respond. And the rest is still through volunteers. Now, I know they're looking to expand that, and they may even already have, based on some of the issues that they ran into.
So we're just saying for the 5, we'll mirror the language of 3.1.
Yeah.
3.1 and
3.1 and 3.3. The 3.3 we
Yeah.
can add it too, I think.
Well, that's the one I was just asking about. Because KFAS's has one that theirs is 13. Services provided by ambulance shall be available on a 24-hour, 365-day
Oh,
basis.
It says the same thing,
including-
so you're right. We don't need that.
Yeah.
We don't need to move 3-3. We'll just move 3-1 over. Yeah.
I'm curious if Marbletown First Aid reads this language in the way we're saying, like, if they can't provide service, that they're going to hire like a third party.
I'm not saying they're gonna hire. I didn't use them as range.
They might call, if they're
They
gonna be
might
out of
call
service,
county
they
and say we're
might
not available.
call
Okay.
KFAS and say, can you cover us? Or they might call Olive or somewhere.
It says
They can
arrange, not
cover us.
hire.
That's why I was wondering.
In essence, they're doing the same thing, because when KFAS just alerts the county of, unable to respond, they know to go to a mutual aid. Marbletown's sort of saying the same thing. By notifying the county, they are arranged.
Yeah, I just want to make sure because I know this is basic to the contract with Marbletown, which is a slightly different thing than what they're doing for our small. If it is a question, we can clarify with them.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, the number of calls that they're serving a month is probably usually less than 10 calls.
My only question was if there was some small subtle difference. I didn't want to change it from what KFAS had in theirs, because I don't want to be asking them to do something that they don't have the staff to do. Whereas whereas the other paragraph I felt didn't do the same, didn't have that same.
So that's why
was-
we'll leave it as is in both.
Yeah, we'll leave those as is,
We'll leave
both,
those
but
as is.
for
We'll just
the
add in the 3-1.
3-1 to the 5 for.
Okay. Any more? We're good on that. So courthouse ADA bathroom RFP.
So what, I'm sorry, we're gonna make those changes?
Yeah, we'll
And
make those
then-
changes and then I'll bring this back to you. I will try to set up that meeting
Okay,
with Michael and I. We'll be bringing you back a new version to approve, to offer to them.
okay,
But
great.
I think the key part that we are in sort of uncertainty on, I agree, we should talk with them and say, what do you guys think? How should we do this? This is what we're trying to achieve. What do you propose for language? And then we're all comfortable with it. I can also talk to the county EMS coordinator and see if they have any suggestions. But I just wanted us to be able to discuss the changes that Mary Lou had proposed and anything else. I think we did a good job of that, so. I'll take this and create a new version with the changes we made tonight. Well, the ADA bathroom RFP, remember it was a long time ago, we got $30,000 and out of unasked for a unsealed bid, just a quote showed up in my office. I purposely did not look at it because we can't accept a quote because it has to be a sealed bid. But now that we have another vendor who appears to be interested, what I was gonna ask is if the board wants to put together a new RFP. Try it again,
All right.
hopefully,
Try again.
and I will make sure that like, if I drive to this guy's house, who is in our town, to hand him and say, fill this out, because we tried this last February and then he never followed through and did the RFP. It's a different contractor, it's not the same one.
When do we lose the fund?
Well, we should have lost it a long time ago, but until the justice court asks for the money back, I'm not asking that. So they should have asked us for it back last year. Because in the fall of last year, the new round of funding, they also though don't usually, we didn't apply for new funding because we couldn't really do that, not at least at any of the last year. But until they ask for the money back, I'm not giving it back.
All right, one more round.
We'll try again. So I'm gonna come to you at the workshop meeting with an RFP. That we put out there and we're gonna do quick, like 3 weeks and we do it maybe at the regular meeting. And so, I mean, be prepared. We are gonna have to subsidize. No way it's gonna be built for $30,000, but it's a start.
Well, it's our building and so we gotta fix
We gotta do something.
30,000 offices.
We've been trying with contractors. Now, finally, I walked in and it was Seth said, "Oh, we got a quote." I said, "Don't give it. I don't want to see it. I just want to know who the vendor is, so I can chat with that."
Like if things are slowing down.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that's what it is. Charter Spectrum, Michael already reported on. So we've got 3 codes. The subdivision code, we talked about at length at last meeting. I made all the changes. I can give that to you. That new version with all the changes we talked about. What I'm gonna propose is that we don't do anything with this tonight, because even if we do it tonight, we can't, it's too late to refer. We're gonna refer it to the county for February. So why don't we at the workshop meeting dig into this 50-page code for subdivision? We'll talk about it, but I'll give you these in the meantime to look at, and I'll also email them to you.
Careful that
We're just reviewing the changes we made.
Well, and anything else too. So what I'd like, what I'd like to do at the workshop meeting is come up with a finalized product that we're gonna refer to the county for their February meeting. We'll hold a public hearing. I may ask that we do it at the February workshop meeting instead of the audit meeting. The reason being is,
The hearing.
yeah, the
Okay.
public hearing. The reason being is I'd like to try to get the subdivision adopted in March. March is the next benchmark for the moratorium. If we adopt the subdivision and get this in place by March, when we were going to have to renew it till June. We're gonna hold our own feet to the fire and be done by June, like we said. But if we get the subdivision done by March, when we renew, we can drop the subdivision. So that's why I kind of shifted gears and said, let's work on subdivision now. So that way, come March, we can remove that portion of the moratorium and just continue it on site plan and special use. And then people can move forward with subdivision. So, the only downfall of that is the density will still be the same as it is now, if we're gonna make any other changes in that, in the zoning standards, but that's the only downfall.
So how would that work? We may,
They would just, the existing zoning code would still be in effect
until we,
until we change it. But it's only gonna be for 3 months, and it's not really, because we're not really looking at changing density, except we're looking at creating 2 new districts, 2 new zoning districts. So for the short term, they would still be under the old. But that's my goal. We can certainly discuss and debate that, whether we want to get rid of the subdivision, not get rid of it, but knock it off in March, or if we want to hold it until we're done with it. But rather than talking about that tonight, what I would like us to do is talk about the dark skies and the cannabis. Mary Lou has some comments for us on both of those. And decide where we want to go. I'm trying to get it so we are done by 10 o'clock. Don't have all these wild moves. So there's the outdoor.
Those are the audit.
What?
Yeah, we did that after the audit.
We had, the first time we had these elements, we didn't really talk about it.
Right, so what I did is we had it on the agenda, but we skipped past it. 11:30 at night. This is,
We've done it.
what?
We could have made it through.
We probably could have. So
Good company to be in.
I took the Pennsylvania code and made it the town of Rochester. So my question is, Mary Lou, do you want to first go through kind of your thoughts in general on the,
Well, yeah, sure. My thoughts in general is there are things that may be too vague in wordings under purpose and applicability. Somewhere we talk about later on about Let me find it here. A lot of it is kind of subjective, I guess, is what I want to
Okay.
say. So far as the, all the different lighting standards, I don't know what they mean. And Mike, I'm sorry, I said to you, hey, maybe we need to have a lighting expert look at this.
I can
then I
tell
was
you what
like-
they mean.
Oh, wait, he does know what they mean. So, it would be good if you could explain to the rest of the board what these, why these particular standards are the best standards for the town.
Yep.
Yeah, and related to that, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I was also confused trying to do all these percentage calculations, and there are a lot of good pictures that kind of show like what a cutoff is, and when they start talking about these degrees, like not seeing light. So I think we should add some pictures to
Yep.
it to augment that.
Yeah, and some of the other examples had good pictures, so.
I found a bunch of them.
So like just starting at the beginning and the purposes in number 1, it's to provide for and control lighting in outdoor public places. Like, I think you mean it for everywhere. But my backyard, I would never consider a public place.
Right.
So I think we have to define what that means or change that wording. And, maybe
Yeah.
in Pennsylvania, it means something else. Maybe it's a term of
Yeah.
art there. And then in number 5, this is what I mean about the vagueness and needing to tighten
Yeah.
things up. In number 5, it says protect and retain the intended character of the various portions of the town of Rochester. Does that mean,
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
So these, I agree that these are a little vague, like the example from, I think it was Brookhaven, was much more specific. Now, this does cover a section like section G, street and parking lot lighting for residential applications. So that's talking about like,
Yeah,
more
in
like,
residential, you
yeah,
want less intrusive lighting, of course.
right,
But, so I think that's a little vague. B1, it says all uses within the town of Rochester where there's interior string lights. I think you might want that to be all properties,
okay,
because you could have a vacant lot that somebody's worried people are gonna cross over, so they put some lighting up or something,
Yep.
right? We should talk about or spell out in B6 what the NFPA 75 and 101 are,
yep,
so that we, it can be discussed at public hearing or whatever, but we want to make sure we know what that is.
yep.
Oh, here, I found the
And
thing I was talking about.
this does have the exception that I will say I saw in almost every code. Temporary seasonal decorative lighting is exempt from all except the glare control. So people can still put their Christmas lights up and not have an
Right,
issue.
and I
As
did
long as
see
it's
that,
not
but these,
causing a glare.
exemptions are emergency exemptions under
Right,
NFPA. But then on page 3, D2, the words in there are that the lighting application and aesthetically acceptable to the town of Rochester.
where
Who
are
in the
you?
town of
D2.
D2A?
Oh, D2. I thought you said C2. I was like, that's a definition.
Nope.
Okay, got it.
D2A, you talk about that has to be aesthetically acceptable to the town of Rochester. So to who in the town of Rochester and how in the world, what's aesthetically acceptable
Yep.
to me may not be, the same to
Understood.
others. So I just see a lot of room in there for people to, bring complaints against their neighbors because it's different for everybody.
Actually, the rest of that section, that sentence almost isn't needed because the rest go on to describe it pretty well.
Mhm.
But put a question mark by that, we can maybe reword it, or maybe just.
Yeah, or
delete it.
maybe just take it out. All right, then on to, let's see.
And I'm not necessarily totally locked into this one, but some of the other
Right, this
examples.
This is the first draft of
Yeah.
you putting all these different things
The
together.
other examples either seemed, they were written in 1980 and they were really woefully outdated.
We
or
weren't
they
really
were
worried about dark
extreme,
sky compliance.
extreme, and they have a code enforcement official who's running around with a light meter.
Okay, in 2C, in the middle, you're talking, for the lighting of predominantly non-horizontal tasks or surfaces such as but not limited to facade, landscaping, signs, billboards, fountains, displays, and statuary, when their use is specifically permitted by the town of Rochester. Is that the town of Rochester zoning code? Is that
Got it.
where, is it by a planning board or a zoning
Sure.
board decision?
Yeah,
So it's,
that probably would be down in Rochester because our sign law.
Right, we have
is
sign
either-
codes and-
It's either approved by the planning board or it's approved by the code enforcement office. So it would be one or
Yep,
the
so
other.
we should just clarify.
Yep.
Okay. In E, Mike, I know you know what barn lights,
I
AKA
mean-
dusk to dawn lights are. I haven't a clue.
Mary Lou, hold on a minute.
So,
Are you guys hanging out for us to sign your forms or?
I don't think we do need to get that time.
Okay,
You're just gonna.
you're welcome to
you're gonna write
stay.
it
I
out?
didn't know if you were hanging out because we're interested. Because I don't want to drive you out, but if you're thinking you need to stay,
Yeah, the other thing said they said to stay for 2 topics, y'all get extra credit.
you
Yeah,
get,
you
you
get-
get a lot of credit. if you stay.
you've had like 10 topics.
We're trying to get out of here by 10.
We're trying to get out of here by 10, so it's your call.
You can leave at any time. It
Yeah.
Won't hurt our feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe Mark's, but I don't know.
I'll go. Let's go.
Our new security officer. from
Good night.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
Okay. So moving on to page 4.
Okay, so Mike, tell me what barn lights are and dusk to dawn lights. Maybe we need them in the definition.
Barn
maybe
lights,
it's in there.
yeah, barn lights I'll have to find out. I do not know. The dusk to dawn lights,
Well, it says AKA, so they're the same thing.
yeah.
But we should define that.
Yeah,
All right,
dusk to dawn lights are basically lights that are on a timer that come on when it gets dark and go off in the
Yeah.
morning.
Shall not be permitted.
Like, for example, the lights at the ranch. Which do not have a shielding device. Yeah, we won't be able to touch this.
I just think for other people, because I'm not the only one who lives by the school and is affected by their light, it does say all public or private, and
Yeah.
the football field is listed on.
Yeah,
So that not.
well,
what is it,
remember
neither
this is
public nor
Pennsylvania.
private?
New York State schools are exempt from all building and zoning codes with the exception of signage.
But it's just the
and
school
remember, this isn't a building and zoning code.
lights are-
Doesn't
Yeah, this
matter.
was in the-
School property, not the
Mike?
school building.
This is a
What's that?
standalone chapter. This is a standalone chapter.
Not zoning.
Correct.
It's not the zoning law. I think you should put those exceptions in.
Okay,
We should spell that out to avoid
Okay.
any confusion
yeah.
down the road.
Yeah. Now, I will say Pennsylvania had 3 versions. They had a standalone, they had one for zoning code. And they also recommend that you do put it in your zoning code, but I still think we're better off handling it standalone.
Well, I think that if you put it in the zoning code, it's gonna be hard to have that 3-year or whatever time period you decide period for
Enforce.
people to come in compliance.
I mean, we already do have the applicability, so in there would be the other exceptions. Any others?
Mhm. in 3D, it's another thing where it says specifically approved by the town of Rochester, so we'll have to fix that. My next comment, okay.
Yeah, got it.
My next comment is 5H. And the question is why?
I think that's basically federal law that a flag that's displayed overnight has to be lit. So I think that's why it's in there.
But, okay, but you're saying no other flags could be.
I don't believe so. The
Well,
state
no, I mean, that
flags,
would be the town board's choice. That
right,
would
so
be the town
state,
board's choice.
state flags and the United States flag are specifically required to be lit at night. No other flag is required to be lit. We have a
Right, so,
town
but-
flag. there's
So
no
you're saying the other flags can't be?
Yes.
You could say they can be. That's up to the
I've
board.
researched flag laws instead.
Flag laws and flag laws.
On the books.
Egg flags.
So yes, we do know that, or at least I know that. No, I'm gonna say, we know that. Obviously. Anyway, Mary Lou, your point well taken if we want to amend that in any way. But
Yep, it's,
basically what it's saying is your light to light your flag should be limited to lighting the flag and not the entire surroundings.
okay, see, that's not what I got from it, so
No,
let's
So-
just work
so
on
the
that
beams-
language a
so
little.
the beam spread no greater than necessary to illuminate the flag. So the beam
Right, so
spread is
maybe
the
you want to
angle.
say, maybe what you want to say is flags may not be illuminated from dusk till dawn, except for United States and New York State flag, which shall be permitted, and then the blah, blah, blah.
Okay. Well, I mean, we're just kind of tonight just doing general notes. I'm not looking for.
Right,
specific
absolutely,
language.
just something for you to think about. Let's see.
You guys,
I have a question.
yeah,
So the requirement to light the flag is just for the national flag or it's also state flag? What did you?
I
say?
don't know. I believe the state flag is also,
But is it only the New York State flag or, I'm sorry, I know.
I
this is
don't, I
silly,
don't,
But if I'm flying, Mary Lou said to put the word New York in there. I'm
Well,
just
yeah,
saying-
because he had
I
state,
don't-
so I,
I will find out the
Okay.
answer. I don't know. I know the New York State flag and I know state flags fall under that same.
Right,
I'll have to go look at the New York State law about flag illumination. I know the federal law.
okay,
The federal law says the flag of the United States and state flags.
right,
So I'll have to look
Okay.
and see if New York has a similar.
right.
I don't see it. I don't see it.
No. Same thing, flag should be displayed only from sunrise to sunset. This is a New York State flag specifically on buildings and stationary flag staffs. However, the flag may be displayed at night upon special occasions when it is desired to produce a patriotic effect.
I mean, we don't have the state flag flying in our buildings. So we could take it out and I don't know that anybody else has this.
All right.
I'm fine.
Thank the legislature. Well, I don't think we're looking to do that level of specificity right now. I think we're just trying to get an idea. Is this a good starting point or do we want to ditch this and go look at something else?
I think it's good. One thing I want to make sure is, like, some of this is mandating lights in certain residential cases. I don't think we should mandate street lights.
I would agree.
That can be, like, people want them, they can put it.
Well, let's work our
plan.
way through instead of, let's just let Mary.
I thought we were doing generic. Okay,
No. I'm just saying,
going high level, getting out of here. Let's go back.
thank you. I'm just saying, let's go through, but we're not making like word for word changes.
Not making happy to glad.
Okay, the next page, E3. What time can they be put back on? I mean, I'm just thinking, I used to live across from Davis's farm. And, you know, they needed those lights on. Mike, you know the cow farm business.
I
You
mean, we
know,
can
they
remove
needed-
the whole section if we want to.
Yeah,
that?
so I just want you to think
Agriculture.
of what that's going to livestock agriculture.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I
we
think-
should exempt agriculture. I'm also thinking about how sometimes you have to put lights on to do work at night in a field, which I've had to do before.
Yeah,
I think we should.
Just remove it.
Yeah.
Without any restrictions.
We're just removing it. We're just removing
okay.
it. And in the exceptions, we'll add agriculture.
Good. Thank you.
No, you do that without the lights on.
Although I will say the light outside County Barn that's on every night could shield it better, quite straight afterwards.
Well, maybe.
Yeah, that's like-
No one lives there.
I mean, this is an agriculture town. There's a lot of parcels that are.
So you're thinking of agriculture as working in the fields.
I'm thinking of like
temporary.
operational
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
And, but maybe permanent lighting.
Permanent structures.
Well, I know for me, it might not even on all the time, it might be a motion sensor. Mine, it's slightly windy, my motion sensor light on my garage is constantly on all night and just off and on, you can just remove. So, I don't know if that's what's going.
Now theirs comes on.
Or maybe the way to handle it is, agriculture except like retail store. I'm just thinking of. You wouldn't want to make it permanent because sometimes the barn light is the thing that you can have on, but if it's like a public.
Well, remember barns are agricultural buildings.
Yes.
Stores are not. So we could say we could exempt agricultural buildings
Yeah,
and, you know, like a
Okay.
store at Saunderskill is not an agricultural building.
right.
Well, you could,
Sometimes you
yeah,
could
say,
have one function to, like, their fruit washing and the barn.
Yeah, I mean, I don't
It's a
want to get into
permitting.
specific.
That would be up.
So
Yeah.
so I kind of see where they're going with the shielding and the light, and not trying to track the light and maybe looking around the head of the night.
I have never, ever listened to complain about lighting from the board, about a farm,
Yeah, me neither.
ever. So I think it's a non-issue.
Yeah, I
If it
think-
becomes an issue, it can be amended.
Yeah.
The next board can amend the code.
Well, I'd be curious if we're defining, like how narrowly we're defining agricultural and agricultural uses. Because I don't want everybody.
yeah, I
saying,
think we have to put that definition in.
Yeah.
We have to put that
But we
definition.
do define in our zoning code, and we can borrow from that is.
Right,
you
we
know,
can take that,
agricultural
but
Buildings don't need a permit, you know,
Or we
unless,
say-
unless they're occupied by the public.
Or we could say agricultural uses in that district or something like that.
Yeah, but we have a lot of ag uses that are not in the state ag. district.
Yeah.
I don't want
But I did, I learned.
Anyway, why don't we
Yeah, so right now we're striking that.
striking E for the moment. The recreational uses, this would not, I don't think, be school, but we could figure out if that is or not. But this would be more like private, and bear in mind that this would also apply to the towns. Like if we decide to light our pickleball. And you'll see, I added pickleball in, so the red ones are the ones I added. I added that. The red ones are my ads because of things that may exist in our town. The other ones were, the black ones were dated.
Let me ask, is 70 feet, I'm sure it's a standard thing, but is that too excessive
That is the standard height for that type of.
for
field.
like field lighting?
Yep. Basketball is much lower. That is the standard to light safely. Well, it's saying it may not exceed maximum now.
Oh, okay.
It could be a lot less than that. But. So the 20 for basketball, the 70, basically if it's a field sport, it's following the 70. Obviously, Little League Baseball is a little bit less, smaller field. The miniature golf and the pickleball and the tennis, and the track.
I love that you added pickleball, because you're trying to compete with.
Marbletown.
I know. I see
know?
that, I
Yeah.
really-
Free advertising.
I appreciate it.
Well, when I saw tennis, I'm like, I gotta add pickleball.
We will have the best.
for Adam's mom.
Do we want to add, is there one for golf, or should we add golf courses? Because I know a lot of the courses around who do night golf, and I don't think that they're not necessarily lighting up the field, the whole thing, that they blow in the dark
Yeah.
for night.
Let's
golf,
have to,
but-
let's look to find out golf, but more importantly, driving ranges.
Yeah.
But those would be covered under zoning.
Yeah, I guess I was
Well,
more thinking the
the-
driving range.
Number three, well, I'm just, if we can, if we do that, it says three, trap shooting.
Oh, there
facilities,
it
golf
is.
driving ranges, racetrack shall not be
There we go.
unless it can be
Racetrack?
demonstrated.
Yeah. We can include it and we can,
So it's saying you, if you need the light, you have to demonstrate it won't create a nuisance, and then if that is the case, then you can, you cannot do it using horizontally aimed fixtures or floodlights. And you can't aim them at an angle greater than 45.
Now, what about, like, you have racetracks
yep,
and that has spectator areas. You want them lit.
yeah, they're lit with the same. They're lit basically with just like shorter telephone poles with lighting. Similar to like parking lot lights.
Right, but on this, it says racetrack shall not be illuminated.
Unless it can be demonstrated, doesn't say on
Right, so
there
we're
by
gonna make them
residential.
come in and demonstrate that every year?
No, this isn't an every year thing. Once the lighting is up, this won't be part of
No,
their
that's true.
racetrack permit. This would just be, this is
Yep,
only what
okay.
you can't do, yeah. We're
All right.
not adding this to the racetrack law that they have to demonstrate that every year.
No, I understand that, but they do, so they have to come in once and demonstrate. I mean, I would think you would want the
Well,
default to
basically,
be that
it would be,
that a spectator area is lit.
Maybe we should add a spectator area, because I think it does say how lighting should be accomplished, and then it says for new recreational facilities.
so the recreational section is about the recreation area itself.
Yeah.
I think there is other sections, or in the recreational area, we could add spectator.
Just including spectator area.
You know,
Because
there?
no, it would, with one
Yeah.
sentence. it fixes
But
all
it's,
that up.
it's different lighting. You don't want 70-foot lights for your spectator. You need the 70-foot area lights.
Aren't they usually covered by the 70-foot lights? That wouldn't
For the most part, that's where I was trying to head is, they really don't have a lot of separate. When you leave the track area of the Accord Speedway, there's a couple like pole, telephone pole with some lights on, like the one outside here.
Yeah.
That just sort of light. the
Well, and
area
they
for
have
the
that,
park.
number two covers that also.
Yeah,
Exit.
we would have to play with that time because racetrack does allow them to operate until 7:30 or actually. till
Well, it
midnight.
says recreation facilities wishing to change their hours,
Oh,
if they're keeping their same hours. But my point is, that goes to new recreation facilities and facilities changing their hours. But then below it, it says racetrack shall not be illuminated.
unless it can be demonstrated.
Right, I think you might want to say except for spectator areas.
Or maybe we just.
I
take
think they're-
racetracks out.
I think they're two very different things, Mary Lou. I think if we want to include spectator areas, we write a separate section about spectator areas for recreation areas.
Okay, well, I mean, you do have
Yeah.
the lighting for safe exit of patrons in this thing below for other recreation facilities.
Yeah, I'm thinking, see, my point is the recreation uses is about the lighting of the field where the use is happening, or the racetrack, or the golf course. The pedestrian areas possibly are covered somewhere else. And if they're not, we can add them somewhere else.
Right, well, that's what I'm saying. Make sure you cover it.
Okay. I'll put a big note, spectator areas, but I don't think I think trying to combine the spectator areas with the sections on the field itself are gonna be problematic.
Right, so you
They're
should just,
different
you
types of.
have to make it clear that this is the field itself.
Got it.
Because it's recreational uses. Part of the recreational use is sitting down and watching what's going on the
Is
field.
that true though? Maybe at the racetrack it is, but if I think of like the Rosendale Little League field, just the entire complex is illuminated by the outfield lights. If I think about the the light up basketball courts at the Deets, the spectator area is exclusive of the court space.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Those lights are lighting the entire.
But like the football field at Beats, all the lights are pointed at the field, and there might be one or two other lights that are much lower. Yeah. A lot of it is.
There are other
ambient
lights
lighting.
around. There are other
Lot of
lights
it-
around the bowl and on the locker room building.
Yeah, true too, yeah. So that's the point is though, it's part of the recreational facility, but this section is specifically geared toward the.
Illuminated the playing field.
Yeah.
So
But
we
just
re-
by
we-
our
so we-
conversation, you can just clarify it. That's all I'm saying.
Right, so we had a section on.
Clarify it.
Yeah, I think we beat this to death. We should move on.
The color? We gotta talk about the big one,
What's the big one?
the duration of when it will go into effect.
Okay,
Goes all the way down. I mean, that's,
well, let's continue to work our way through.
yeah.
So
We're just moving on from.
we're moving to letter G.
I only have one other comment.
Okay, good. Oh, on recreational uses?
No.
Okay, so we're.
So let's move to section G. So Mary Lou, do you have any concerns within G?
Yeah, that's where I want to get rid of the requirement.
Let's see.
Yes, so,
I have little notes on here, just have to figure out what they mean.
um,
So, okay,
so let me address Michael's comment first, because it's one. So he doesn't like the shall be provided, just change it to a may.
Yeah.
Okay?
okay, but if you're putting it as a may, what's the point in having it?
I also think the size of the lots this is written more for a urban area than a
Well, this would
residential
be
area.
Lighting standards for residential developments that
Yeah.
provide lighting.
I don't know that we need this in this code.
Yeah, I would
Because
find. removing
This
it.
would fit more in our zoning code.
Yep,
My comment.
yeah, I mean,
says-
this really looks like
Remove.
subdivision regulations.
Plus it shortens the code.
So I'm gonna make a note, add section G to zoning or subdivision.
That is what my note says. This is
And
for
remove.
subdivisions.
Yeah, because we
Yep.
already have components of lighting requirements in the.
In zoning, but not in subdivision.
Oh,
We probably should add,
General.
if anything, we should probably add some of this in. We should probably, yeah, in general commercial, but if anything, we should probably add some of this into our street requirements,
Yeah, right.
lighting of streets.
although I don't like a requirement. for this. I think it's,
Well, in some places, well,
I hate street.
let's not get in that debate right now. We're gonna remove it from here, so let's stick on this lighting code. Or get in that debate when we talk about it. So we're gonna remove all of G. Now, signs and billboards is also covered under zoning too.
Right, so we have
So-
to make sure,
Or can we just delete it?
We're gonna delete it from here, because as you said, it's the standalone code.
all right.
So the only comments I had there was, and I don't know if that's anywhere else, they call out zoning districts, we should just make sure ours are.
The only problem though, now I'm thinking about it, not so much the subdivisions, but the signs and billboards, if we remove it, existing ones, if they don't change, and it's not included in this code,
Right.
then they don't have to fix it.
We have a lot of lighted signs. that
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
that-
Oh, yeah.
That are complained about.
Oh, yeah. You ever gone down the hill by Gatos and see that Carhonson liquor sign that
Oh,
Warren forgot to turn it off at night? Notice the Dollar General one is off every night.
Have you ever driven down Kaiserite Road? At pretty much any time when it's dark?
I don't like driving at night because I have terrible night.
So, anyway,
Molly drives.
let's not remove H, but let's look
Let's make sure
at
it's
the
consistent.
details and see what we need to keep in and what we need to not keep in. Because otherwise, if we remove H, it's not enforceable.
No.
Because the zoning code only deals with new applications.
Yep.
So existing are then grandfathered in and can't be made to be fixed. So. There you go, Michael. Electrical feeds for pole mount fixtures shall be run underground, not overhead. You know,
Yeah, that's, I mean, it's no
yeah.
best interest of the residents. Power on.
I think I is fine if, again, Mary Lou, I see the town of Rochester in the 4As.
Right, so that's,
Plan submission,
I have on something on, in my notes that why not put this in the subdivision law requirement?
well, again, then it's not enforceable for existing.
Well, we say for subdivision and land development applications where site lighting is required, okay, by this local law.
Where are you looking at?
J1.
I'm looking at
J1?
J.
Oh, you're on to J.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about J include for subdivision, not I. I thought you were about I.
No, J, because, you know, you want the site plan. I don't know that
Yeah.
we have a lot of subdivision lighting problems, do we?
Right. So why don't we add J? Why don't we add J into zoning
Mhm.
and consider it in subdivision?
Yep.
Although most subdivision is just there, you know, subdivision is dividing a lot into lines. It has nothing to do with development. We could add it to building code, which is my next thing I'm coming, because the state rewrote building code and we have to update ours. I'm halfway through it. In my part-time.
There you go.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Compliance monitoring, that we definitely need to keep. So now, Michael, we'll get to the non-conforming. The letter L.
I just have it highlighted that we need to discuss.
So what's your opinion?
I mean, look, public comment, people, well, clear, there are immediate concerns that.
Yep.
Hopefully those can be addressed outside of meeting the 55 code. 3 years is way too long,
Yep, I just kept what was in there. And
but if we make it short, I mean, either way, it's gonna create a bunch of code enforcement concerns.
Yep.
1
year,
I think 8 years.
6 months is crazy because they're
Not
not.
enough time.
Yeah, I think we go with a year and we see what the public says.
Got it, 1 year.
We don't want to create hardship, but also.
But in the meantime, if somebody puts a new fixture up on their own and it's identified as a new fixture, we go after the meter.
Right, or if they replace something.
So Mary Lou, the violations and penalties, I'll just need you to help us with that section.
Yep, but you're okay. It's good.
Okay, yeah, I inserted the word court because Pennsylvania had a different term for
Yeah,
other than court.
Some of them.
And I gotta fix the abatement of nuisances. I thought I caught all the section 6 notices. I just gotta correct that.
and you have to, say who the appropriate officers or agents are in M.
Yeah, well, that's what I want. I left it blank because we want to just say code enforcement. We want to say code enforcement or their designees, which would be the fire inspector.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we want to include the constable?
I don't know about that. for me. I mean,
I mean,
I
like,
would be fine with that. They already deal with it partially. I know a lot of complaints they've got, the constable, the most of the complaints they've gotten recently are a lot of them are calling to them about the lighting for neighbors, like a lot of the seniors in the elder care program, like that's how the one additional one got signed up. She called about a lighting issue with a neighbor.
But it's not, it's a code enforcement issue that would be.
Constables would deliver the violation.
Yeah, and talk to them.
Yeah, but that's not, they're
Like
not
a lot of mileage.
prosecuted.
used on town cars if we're sending.
Well,
a
then
law
take the
enforcement
code
officer out.
enforcement out and just give it to the constabulary.
But
But
does it have to
but
be
if-
observed by the person? Because lighting tends to be on during our working hours. Like, is code enforcement gonna have to visually see the infraction?
Oh, we're gonna get a pound and a half for it. Yeah.
How about this? The town board shall designate officers or agents of the town of Rochester, blah, 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 by resolution.
Where are you, what are you replacing with Watson?
M2, instead of the you
Okay,
can just put the town board shall by resolution,
supervisor, drive around, site, I'll drive around and identify him and turn him. Site.
appoint
Can we designate?
officers or
I'll see
agents.
the lights, just won't see anything else.
So the town board shall designate. How about we say the code enforcement officer or the designee or other persons as may be designated by the town?
Okay, that's fine.
Because it should be the code enforcement officer. I
Yep,
know.
I agree.
Yeah, that just. seems
We
like
can
a
But if
tell
we're
him,
getting to a point
we
where
can
they're
tell him
like-
one day, take the day off, and we want you to go out from 8 to 10.
But at 11:30 PM, you have to go see whether the lights are off.
Yeah, it just seems like a lot for a 3-person office to handle. I know.
Yeah.
Well, it's gonna be a
It's
lot.
year, but I
Yeah.
mean, it just.
No, it's,
not really
it's,
3 people to handle.
we're opening a whole new door here.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
you may be creating a monster,
I know, I've been
a
driving.
neighbor to
around.
neighbor monster.
Oh, I know. And believe me, it's something that I've been incredibly sensitive to for a number of years. There's one on 4455, a pizza place that's out of business, still has a light that shines straight up for you. Yeah, it's crazy.
So.
Maybe. We don't know yet. Okay. So we're done with that. I'll tweak it as we talked about. I'll try to clarify. I'll bring it back to us to talk about more at our workshop meeting. See if we think, I'll try to do a little more research. You guys look at it, see if you pick it apart in the next few weeks. I'm gonna propose we skip cannabis, although Mary Lou had a very good point about cannabis. And why don't you go ahead, I printed out her email to me, but you can just say it for Mary Lou.
Okay, well, first of all, I finally know how to spell it because I always get the I's and the A's mixed up. So Googling got me nowhere for a long time. But
And it's 2 A's.
anyway. Oh, that I had everything but the placement of the A's and the I. My only 2 things were that the regulations are not yet in place. It's right now in the public comment period, which ends sometime in February. Yeah, it ends in mid-February, I think. And then they, go through actually enacting the regulations. So a lot of the things that we have in here, I think it's fine. It goes along with what is proposed for the regulations, but they could change. So you kind of have a 2-part thing here. If you pass it now, you might have to amend it. But if you don't pass something, somebody could come in and put up a smoking room anywhere
Yeah, so
because you don't have anything in place. So I think it's good to be ready with something.
that was gonna be my question.
only-
So if they don't pass Like right now, when we don't have a law, regardless of what happens at the state level, somebody can come in and have one of these.
This law too is copied on the town of Lloyd, which the county reviewed and thought was a very good example. The town of Saugerties did one, and the county's comment was, nice job, guys, but we totally voted out of the town because they made it so restricted that they couldn't identify a single parcel that would.
Somebody had a
Oh,
fee
that's
like
no good.
$50,000.
Wasn't the fee, it's, yeah, I did see one of the examples I shared, Mary Lou, an example of a fee of $50,000.
What?
Yep,
Yeah,
For
so
the
a lot of
license.
candidates make that up.
Wow.
one municipality
Okay.
in the examples that I saw, yep. And I don't know,
Well,
you know, maybe
Municipalities
some judge
can,
would say that was legal.
no, that, I think they're not going to, because it specifically is going to say that we cannot charge for local licensing,
Oh, okay.
that we're
I
not
don't know,
allowed
I
to
don't
do that.
remember, that may not have been a New York town. But yeah. I
Oh,
did see
okay.
that
All right.
50,000.
So my only other comment is, I don't think that you should leave this up to the planning board for hours of operation. You should
I would
just
agree.
set them.
I thought we maybe said that when we looked at it.
Yeah. We looked at this quickly at a meeting you were not at. I think we did say.
Oh,
that.
okay.
I didn't change it.
Okay. Other than that, with the proposed regulations, everything fits.
Well, and it's, the reason I like this example is we just have to identify where we want. I mean, I did put a note in there.
Right, you have to pick out your zones.
Yeah, the church, they say 500 and the state law says 200. I put a note in there.
Yeah, you did. It
Yeah.
said,
State law proposed is 200.
Yeah.
Maybe they figure you can do incense in church, so what the heck?
I was gonna say, they
Um,
were pretty similar. I'm with you, Mary Lou.
Right?
I'm with you.
So, under the signs, is there a reason that they can't have any image depicting any part of marijuana plant?
I don't know, and Michael has strong opinions about that,
About
so,
what?
I see, you're not paying attention.
I have some strong opinions we're talking about.
The picture on the sign.
Yeah, that's-
I mean, I actually.
Okay.
Not being allowed to consume it on.
yeah, I'm not,
property.
right. Are we talking about this now? I thought we were doing this.
Yeah, we're gonna skip it.
Well, I want Mary. to just
That
give
was
us
my
her
only
take.
other comment was, why?
That's what I wrote. That's my exact comment.
For six?
That's all it says next to mine too, Michael. We think
Yeah, she's talking
alike
about the
very
sign.
often,
Yeah,
don't
I'm
we?
talking about the sign. Yeah. No, I'm.
Oh.
And
no,
I will take a look to see if there's something
back.
in the proposed regs says that. I don't know.
Yes. So I2, can we agree we're gonna remove I2?
yeah,
And then the consumption on premises, to me, that's like a site plan.
That may be a state,
Yeah,
Well, if it's gonna be regulated like tobacco uses, as long as 90% of your profits come from tobacco use is allowed inside the
we
building.
don't know how it's gonna be. Because they're still running the law.
Well, I mean, I can tell you right now, there's someone who lets you consume marijuana inside their business in Kingston that is down there.
well, there's
So-
the,
The
this
state
is
law doesn't
for,
exist.
but this is for,
Oh, no, I'm not saying the
the
right.
retailers, but isn't that separate from a
It-
lounge?
it is separate. But
But
I,
you could have a
There's no point
retail
of-
and a lounge together.
Right.
Yeah.
They are two very different definitions.
Yeah, they're different.
But you
but this is
could,
saying you can, is what I'm, is what my.
It's like there's a retail sale when you go to a liquor store. And then there's a bar.
You can't go to a liquor store and buy a bottle of scotch and open it up and sit down and start drinking it there.
But there's something.
Right.
Okay.
Very little.
Tasting room.
Yeah, different
You
categories.
know, they're regulating them as two different businesses. A
No,
But are they
dispensary
saying,
and,
the definition doesn't, a marijuana lounge could be a retailer and a lounge, because A license for the
So the
sale.
lounge
and-
is the site and
Sale
on-site.
and on-site consumption. You're there, it's
Oh,
like in a
and
bar, you're
not and
selling
or.
it to consume, not or and.
Okay.
I mean, that's how Google has to operate though. You're
I know,
allowed
but
to
it's
do
so
that.
So a lounge can sell it and you can utilize it.
But you have, it's like ordering a drink at the bar.
You must sell it and consume it.
Right there.
Right there.
Just like you can't bring your own six pack into a bar and sit down at a table.
Right.
And golf courses are the only place you need for
So you
alcohol.
go up to your cannabis bar and you ask for
And,
some
and,
gummies or a
and, and
blunt.
most bars also can't, unless you're consuming it there, I don't think they
No.
can sell you. like
Only
a
during
bottle
COVID.
thing.
No, you can only, the only place you can do, as a
Is that
licensed,
room?
New York State licensed bartender, I can tell you, golf courses are the only exception to that, where you can take beverages outside of the bar, designated patio area. There's even like, you can't drink in, if the parking lot is attached to the front entrance of the bar, you cannot drink in the parking lot, but if they have a patio that is not attached to a parking lot, you can drink on the patio lot.
Yeah, I have a question, but I don't want to delay it. But I also think it's absurd to have a blanket statement that you can't have outdoor seating. Because we might have a parcel that has a 30-acre parcel and you have a lounge in the middle of it. It'd be nice
But-
to be outside.
That might be something from the state regs. Let me look.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, you'd have to have quite the setbacks on that.
yeah.
I mean, if it's legal to have it on the street, you can't regulate the smell.
No, but it's legal to have it on the street when it's in your own possession and you're walking down the street, but it's, you know, an outdoor patio is
I mean,
Yeah, it's fair,
potentially there's 100 people there on the outside.
But to Mary Lou's point, it could be, if you have really aggressive setbacks, if somebody does have a 100-acre parcel and you're nowhere near houses, maybe it's not. We shouldn't just blanketly prevent that from happening.
Michael, I will check to see if that is part of the proposed regulations. It may, be.
Yeah.
That may be
Okay.
why that's in. That's it for me.
Okay,
Yeah, right.
They're my comments.
anybody else have anything more for Mary Lou? If not, so Mary Lou, can you pencil us in for the 18th?
Yeah.
In case we want you to come?
Yeah, yeah. I've got a question for you in that case. I put you in pen. I was maybe gonna do the dangerous dog case that night, because that's like, I have meetings on other Wednesdays. Would you be all right if Jill's okay with it, if we had Phil do that, because he goes to court anyway?
The
For
dangerous
us,
dog
Phil
case?
Cataldi?
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm
Absolutely.
gonna get in touch with Phil and see if he can do that, and then I'll put him in touch.
Now I
with
need
Phil.
him to bill me too. He hasn't billed me in 2 months.
Oh my God, who would ever get late on their billing? I'm ashamed of him being current and all.
Boy, did I walk into
Okay.
that. It's the late hour of the night, because when it came out of my mouth, I didn't remember who I was
Oh, I thought
talking to.
you were.
I was impressed that it was only 2 months.
But now it is pretty funny.
That's right.
No, it's just
Take the
like,
win, take the win.
I noticed he hadn't in November or December.
Oh my God, what a loser. All right, guys. I
Thank you very
have it
much.
in for the 18th. If you don't need me, let me know, okay?
Okay,
Have a good night.
All right. Night, guys.
thank you.
Welcome.
Sorry, guys. Trying to get under 4 hours, I really am.
You got
Good, you're doing good.
10:07.
We got a lot that we talked about today. Okay, we're adjourning in memoriam Craig Easton, Richard Mullinen, Ann Green, William Symbol, John Sim Senior, Timothy Ducharme, Roger Miller, Robert Showers Jr., Robin Bailey, Carolyn Hanson, and our continued thoughts and prayers for the people of Ukraine and all suffering worldwide from the virus. And we'll add, I'd like to add to for the victim of the attack.
Yeah, and can I add Marin Austin as well?
Absolutely.
Matriarch of our family.
M-A-R,
N-E-R.
N-E-R.
Austin, Mike City.
STIA. No problem.
AKA.
That was my grandmother's. She was, her given name was,
Mimi. Yeah.
oh, Neely. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, wait. You-
All in favor,
somebody
make it
made a motion.
adjourn.
Thank you. Now all in favor?